This is the stage. Camp Randall Stadium, the place Wisconsin plans to turn into Ohio State's house of pain. So pack it up, pack it in, let us begin. And the Buckeyes have felt pain here before. These Badgers have already put the hurt on a couple of top 10 foes. Those teams turned out to be pretenders. Ohio State, oh, they're for real. The road in October, where championship metal is forged. Top two teams in the country on the road, facing wild-eyed crowds, teams starving to prove they aren't just capable spoilers, but the caliber of champions. Here in Madison, the brats, the beer, the cheese curds, all whetting the appetite for the main course that they hope is a giant upset that'll make them get out their seat and jump around on Wisconsin for College Game Day.
ESPN College Game Day. We're coming to your city.
Good morning, Madison. Yeah! And we're coming to your city. Well, we rolled right through Death Valley, Boomer Center, and Gig and Maggie's, threw our Longhorns up in Austin along the way. We rolled Tide, rolled through Alabama, and wanted to arm in Stanford, put our hands up for the War Eagle on the plains. Rock the big house and we get our swamp, twisting our and the tomahawk chop. Come on, USA, the Buckeyes, all the dogs.
Check it out, now there's no doubt how the Game Day crew makes them scream out loud to a packed house. The show that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Breaking down the matchup with powerhouses meet.
With Reese, Corso, Des, David, and Kirk, you know ESPN is putting in that work. Like fourth and goal, get ready to play. It's time to kick off ball, it's College Game Day.
And we're coming to your city. If you want a little bang in your yin yang, if you want a little bang in your tang, if you want a little bang in your chang chang, come along, come along, come along, yeah. Yeah, we're coming to your city. No,
College Game Day, live from Madison, Wisconsin, is built by the Home Depot. Proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
Do you know what's happened the last 4 times a top 10 team has hosted number 2 in front of College Game Day? Down went number 2. That is what the Badger fans here on Bascom Hill are hoping to see tonight. Bascom Hill is the centerpiece of campus, formed by glacial deposits thousands of years ago, and if those glaciers are still anywhere around, I'm sure they've been warmed up by the spirits that have been flowing for a long time, perhaps even since last night. This crowd here in Madison as they get set for the showdown between Ohio State and Wisconsin, hoping to see something unseen before. Do you know Ohio State under Urban Meyer has never lost a true road game? Glad to have you with us on College Game Day. Reese Davis, Desmond Howard, Lee Corso, and Kirk Herbstreit. Doesn't this just feel like Big Ten? The sky's gray, your hands are a little cold. Here's good, right?
Hey, you guys, if you like Big Ten football, defense, you're going to love this one. Ohio State's #1 in defense in the Big Ten in points scored. Now, listen to this. Wisconsin 2. Wisconsin has allowed 5 touchdowns in 5 games. What a defensive battle this is going to be.
You're right. And I think people are saying, how does Wisconsin pull off this upset? I think it's this crowd and the defense has to come to play, Des. I mean, they are. We were with the players yesterday. They are locked in, as you'd expect them to be. And T.J. Watt, one of the better defensive players in the country. Oh, yeah. He's the leader, especially with Vince Beagle down. It's setting up perfect for, you get to October. These are the kind of games you want.
I watched the young quarterback, Alex Honeybrook, 2 weeks ago against Michigan on the road. Really tough, top-notch defense, and he struggled a little bit. After a bye week, I want to see how much progression he's shown just from that game to this game. Another tough defense, but the big difference now, that one was on the road. Yeah. This one's in Camp Randall with this crowd behind him. Yeah. I'm expecting to see a different Alex Honeybrook tonight.
And you know what? This crowd here has a history. In the early football history books, the first documented case of a coach complaining about crowd noise was Amos Alonzo Stagg complaining about the Wisconsin crowd.
Wow. This crowd is something else, man.
That's great history.
Difference maker.
Great tradition.
However, you have the history and you have the precious present where the top two teams in the country, both on the road, both double-digit favorites here.
Yeah, let's start with the game in Knoxville with Alabama and Tennessee. You can look at Jalen Hurts again. We talked about it last week. Every week just getting better and better, running and throwing. Expect him to have a big day running the football. How about Alvin Kamara? What he did last week, helping this offense out. He's also going to be a factor. Even with Jalen Hurts back, look for him to do some great things as well, because this Alabama defense, Des, is coming after Josh Dobbs.
That's true. We talk about the Alabama defense. Ole Miss versus Arkansas. Alabama's defense put the wood to Austin Allen last week. Made him turn the ball over 3 times, 3 INTs. Before that, he went 4 games without throwing an interception. So you know that Ole Miss defense is going to come after this young man. Watch for Marquise Hayes to have a big game.
North Carolina State and Clemson. Quarterback Deshaun Watson is Clemson's offense. He can run and throw. He should not have a problem scoring today against the Wolfpack. Since the last 4 wins against the Tigers, they have averaged 46 points a game. Oh.
UCLA and Washington State. Cougars unbeaten in the Pac-12, and Luke Falk, best former walk-on in the country, leads the nation in completion percentage. But here's where the Cougars are better. On defense, Hercules Mataafa, Peyton Kallur stuffing McCaffrey, and the Bruin offense has been putrid. Josh Rosen's a game-time decision.
Out in Boulder, Arizona State and Colorado. This Arizona quarterback situation is dicey, to say the least. We'll see how it works out for Manny Wilkins. See you guys. If you've not watched a lot of this team, they've got skill, and they also are playing some pretty good defense. At home, they've got a great shot today.
Nebraska versus Indiana. That man right there, Mike Riley, he has these guys balling on defense. They have 4 players on defense with multiple interceptions. So that's the way they've been. They're undefeated. Can you imagine that? Nebraska undefeated in the middle of October. And that kid right there, Richard Lago, you better protect the ball because they're coming after him today.
Ohio State and Wisconsin. Bucky's a home underdog for the first time since 2010 when David Gilreath took the opening kickoff back 97 yards. Badgers beat number 1, but the last time they met, Big Ten championship game, that was 59-0 behind Cardale Jones. J.T. Barrett taking aim at that Badger defense today. What's he got in store? Urban Meyer with Tom Rinaldi.
Urban, 19 straight wins in true road games. What is it about preparing your team to play away that seems to work?
Well, first, it's good players. That's the first thing you always got to give credit to. Then there's something about going on the road. It's always been that way. You take only 70 guys. You're away from all the concerns about tickets and, parades or not, and it's great to play at home. But there's something about, and then the challenge to go on the road, especially a tough atmosphere. The positive is we went to Oklahoma. Some of these young players experienced a very hostile environment, and this will be a tough one as well.
What do you most want to find out about your team tonight?
I'll win the damn game. I mean, that's what we want to find out. We have to beat man coverage on offense. We got to tackle well, but we've got to. I thought we threw the ball very well against Oklahoma. That's going to be a big challenge.
As always, appreciate the time and good luck.
Always good to see you.
Urban, Tom, thank you very much. Some of these things we've touched on. 3 ranked matchups, couple in the top 10. Road teams, double-digit favorites, the top 2 teams, Alabama and Ohio State. And look at the note, Stanford and Notre Dame, preseason top 10, nowhere to be found. Number 5, number 6, already off. Louisville, number 7, won last night. Now let's go back to this notion that the top 2 teams have created huge separation from the rest of the country. I don't know what could be more evidence of that in the minds of those who set those lines than the fact that Alabama, Ohio State, both double-digit favorites. You're really going to be that easy, especially here? tonight.
Well, we keep talking about what has to happen for an upset, and I know you guys are going to talk Tennessee, Alabama. This game, and if you step back and look at Ohio State, when they came into this season, the youngest team returning in the entire Power 5, but a boatload of unproven athletic players around a couple experienced players. Rayshawn McMillan, the middle linebacker, number 5, gives him a great chance to be productive on that side with his leadership. And the guy you're going to want to watch tonight, especially because of this crowd, is J.T. Barrett. His playmaking ability, running and throwing, and how he's able to keep his composure in front of this atmosphere, Des, that's a huge X factor for the Buckeyes. And truly, that's the reason they are where they are, is because of his experience, and now he's the guy. He's back to being the guy at quarterback.
We'll talk this game more as the show progresses, but I think for Wisconsin to have a fighter's chance, they're going to have to play great defense, be fundamentally sound, and then make J.T. Barrett play the quarterback position. You want to make him have to sustain 12, 13, 14 play drives, and they cannot afford to give up the big play. Ohio State's offense live off the big play. When you look at Alabama and Tennessee, Tennessee cannot turn the ball over. They've been a turnover machine lately. And you know that Alabama will take full advantage of that. Not just getting turnovers, but turning turnovers into instant touchdowns, Coach.
With all this talk about Alabama and Ohio State, I want to talk about the conferences. SEC and Big Ten. Which is the better conference, okay?
Yes, sir.
The Big Ten has 4 teams in the top 10 and none other in the top 25. The SEC has 3 teams in the top 10 and 4 others in the top 25. Advantage SEC is better than the Big Ten.
Definitely with the depth.
The depth.
Depth
no
is still
question.
there.
It's still early, Holmes.
The depth is
That's
still
a fact today.
But the Big Ten has made great strides. Where they've been.
And the ACC has made great strides that we'll talk about. You mentioned 4 teams in the top 10 for the Big Ten. You know, that's the first time that's happened in 56 years. Those 4 teams were Iowa, Illinois, Ohio State, and Purdue. 56 years ago, one of them had a Big Ten that year, had a national champion. Remember who it was?
That was my dad's senior year.
Was it 1960?
1960, yeah.
National champion?
Iowa, I'm going to guess. Minnesota.
Indiana.
Minnesota. What a win. And they weren't in the top 10.
Give him a C note.
At that time.
Right.
Give him a C note.
After the show. Dig it out. I got it in my bag right there. That was a great call. Murray Warmath, Sanford Stevens, recently into the Hall of Fame.
I can't drop the names on you, but I can.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Really good.
All right, so you know what you got there? You got the Big Ten trying to make a point today. Ohio State getting down to business. We got plenty more coming. Bear's going to join us in a little bit and tell us about a bowl game that's being played today.
A bowl game?
Just think about a bowl game. He's got something for you coming up. Inside College Game Day from Madison on a crisp morning. A poor decision one night in Columbus helped J.T. Barrett take his leadership skills to another level. And with losses mounting and swirling about his future, Mark Helfrich sits down with Tom Rinaldi to discuss the state of his Oregon Ducks and a hidden struggle that very nearly derailed Penn State kicker Joey Julius and how he's overcome some adversity to become something of a sensation on special teams for the Nittany Lions. You'll have that story coming up on College Game Day. I cannot believe I owe Herbstreit $100. Did man tell you that?
My dad was a senior that year. That's the only reason I know.
Camp Randall on the move. Camp Randall the swing.
Ohio State looks to be on an incredible mission.
Barrett touchdown. Wisconsin, with this defense, anything's possible.
We're in October, and this is where things start to get real.
Ohio State, Wisconsin, tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC, and streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
College Game Day is built by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. And in part by Chick-fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich.
Get Pollock a curd.
Pollock put down some spinner. This is Arena Cheese, one of the oldest cheese companies in Wisconsin. Back to the 1850s. We're making some good old Colby Jack. You know, They make 305,000 pounds of milk to make 30,000 pounds of cheese.
Got to give Pollock a curd and Dez a fry. And me a beer.
AT&T fan cam. I'm going to tell you, the good people of Wisconsin know how to put together a party.
I've never smelled so many
cheese, some brats, maybe wash it down with a little ice cold Coca-Cola as we check out the new Coca-Cola Refresh section, offering the best seats in the house to enjoy game day. Hey, look, there's a former Badger, Stubby.
All right.
Make sure you say his name right.
Finish that. We went back and forth on that.
Changed.
Stabby's good. There he goes, taking a little sip. I think that there might be a few in the crowd who will partake in perhaps a little stronger beverages.
Or that with something else.
Yeah. That is also a possibility.
The stamina we talked about this morning is what you really have to appreciate from these folks, because they start early.
That's true.
And they go through the game, and then they just keep going. They just keep going into the bar. It's just incredible.
Push through.
Yeah.
What would it take for you to dive into a plate of cheese curds?
Me?
Yeah. I know these guys well.
A significant donation from Kirk Herbstreit to my foundation. How about that?
Apparently, from the first segment of the show, he's got an extra $100.
He got a seat note he can give you. All right. He said, I'll give it to you. Transfer it over.
This is only one of the top 10 matchups on the day. The other one coming in Neyland Stadium, third Saturday in October in Knoxville, Tennessee. Traditional date for the Crimson Tide and the Vols. So this is the first time Tide and Vols have met on the appointed date in 4 years. The only other time, 2007. The 2007, Saban's first year, his first season there, but wherever Saban falls on the calendar, he has had the Big Orange's number, 9-0 at Alabama against Tennessee, 11-1 dating back to his time at LSU, and in 2001, his LSU team beat Tennessee in the SEC championship game and cost the Volunteers a shot at the BCS title. So as much pain as Saban has inflicted on Tennessee, he might be the least popular coach in the stadium if it weren't for Lane Kiffin, who's going to be on the sideline for the Tide. Tide has the nation's longest winning streak at 18. They can match their longest of the Saban era at 19 in a row with a win. Nick Saban with Tom Rinaldi.
Coach, third Saturday in October. What's the significance of this game? Describe that.
Well, I don't know if I can describe it. I just know it means a lot to a lot of people in the state of Alabama, and I'm sure for the folks here in Tennessee as well. But I think there's a lot of tradition in this game from some great coaches that coached at both schools in the past, and we've had some great games. They've got a great team this year, and it's a very important game for both of us.
I've read where you consider it to be maybe the most important game Alabama plays. True?
Well, we play a lot of important games, but I think to a lot of our fans, this is probably the most important game that we play.
Halfway through the season, what would you say is the greatest attribute you've learned about your team and maybe the greatest deficiency you've seen?
I've seen great resiliency from our team. They've played up and down a little bit, which would probably be the downside of it all in terms of consistency and controlling games and playing for 60 minutes. And I think as we go through this stretch, starting with Tennessee, we're going to have to learn how to do that a lot better to maintain our energy, our focus, and our ability to execute for 4 quarters in a game and for 60 minutes in a game, or, we won't be able to continue to have success.
We wish you well.
Well,
thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Dropped a buddy there on Marty.
Yeah, how about that?
Buddy.
And by the way,
And it wasn't Tom.
I'm so used to the Tom Rinaldi, Nick Saban bromance there.
Yeah,
I get it.
Marty Smith.
Marty.
They look, Marty Smith and Rinaldi look exactly the same.
Marty's throwing the ball around this
And
week
we've
in
seen that on
Knoxville.
SportsCenter. You see Tennessee has already snapped the 11-game losing streak against Florida. Alabama can push it to 10 in a row with a victory here. It's something Tennessee desperately wants to end. Joined now by Paul Feinbaum, who's in Knoxville with SEC Nation. So, Paul, as you look at this, Tennessee on the cusp of being back, can the Volunteers truly be back until they beat Alabama?
I think they're already back, Reese. Listen, you know the history of this game. It goes way back. And there was a time when this was the most important game on Tennessee and Alabama's schedule. But that changed in the early 90s when the SEC went to divisions. Now, in my mind, the most important game for Tennessee is Florida. And they accomplished that. They beat the Gators after 11 years. Beating Alabama would be significant, but it's not going to redefine this program. I think it's already back. I mean, you guys have been here. You've seen Tennessee a lot this year. I think this would be important for Tennessee's hopes of the college football playoff, but they can still get to Atlanta and play for the SEC title. Now, there's a lot else at stake here. You mentioned Lane Kiffin. For whatever reason, Tennessee fans still hate Lane Kiffin, and it's ironic. In 2009, one of the closest Alabama-Tennessee games during the streak, Mount Cody in Tuscaloosa had to block a last-second field goal to give Alabama the win over Lane Kiffin. Now, Lane Kiffin may be the most important person on the sidelines in this game.
All right, Paul, I think you could easily make that argument. You know, the one thing, this could be the first of two meetings between the Tide and the Volunteers, as Paul alluded to. Each side has only won the SEC championship once in its history after losing to the other. You know, this is the end of a brutal, brutal stretch for Tennessee. You know, maybe the best thing for their emotional state is to see those crimson helmets, but that might also be the worst thing for their physical state.
Obviously, the best team they faced, but yeah, it's one thing to get up for A&M or Georgia at the end of a 4-game skid. It's another thing when it's Alabama. I mean, this game means everything to them. You hear the kids talking about Tennessee. They start this game on the calendar. This used to be a big deal, Kirk. You can probably speak to this. When I've been in the media, this hasn't really meant much. This 3rd September, what is it again?
3rd Saturday in October.
Okay, well, it hasn't really been a competition. I mean, Alabama's dominated so much, but obviously this year it can change.
I think it's great that it's Alabama for the same reasons. I think if it were somebody else after the last 3 weeks, it might be tough to...
Easier to do it.
Exactly. I think there's plenty of incentive. And if you have not respected Tennessee and before this season started, you have to now respect what they've done in these last 3 weeks. The resiliency, the toughness. They lose 3 of their alphas on defense. They just keep doing enough on that side of the ball to be competitive. And I'll tell you what, I think this is round 1 of the SEC championship game. I think these two teams will play again in Atlanta. We'll see how this one goes. But, Des, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think both teams are going to score points.
I was more impressed with Tennessee last week than I was at any point in the season, by the way. Even though they lost that game, I was more impressed with them.
Right. You know, the key word is resilient. Very resilient team. They remind me a lot right now of Notre Dame a year ago. Remember, they kept getting all these starters injured. Week after week, a starter would go down, but they would remain competitive. It's the same thing right now for Tennessee. They came into the game a week ago against Texas A&M. 3 starters on defense out. They're starting running back Jalen Hurd out the game, but they took the Aggies to double overtime. This is a very resilient team. Now, I don't understand what Paul Feinbaum was saying, because listen, Alabama's the king of the mountain, okay? If you beat Alabama, yes, you are back. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It does a lot for their offense, their defense, and just their whole mentality.
I think he was saying that they're back regardless of what happens because they have a chance to get them again.
I don't think
the trophies there.
Yeah, but you put an exclamation point on being back if you beat Alabama.
You know, they've been close.
Means something.
You know, they've been close last couple of years. In fact, last couple of times that they've been a double-digit dog, they've been able to cover both times against the Crimson Tide. We'll talk more about Tennessee and Alabama coming up. Their chief rival in the SEC East is Florida. Gators have Missouri. Got a quick pick there?
Oh, I got the Gators.
Del Rio back.
The Gators.
Healthy.
With Del Rio starting.
That's a big deal for Florida. I think Florida wins because of it.
Yeah, I like Florida there, too. Florida's still thinking about, with a Tennessee loss, I mean, they have a long way to go, but they're still thinking they got a shot. So I like Florida today.
They have a shot, but the shots become a little bit tougher because of the rescheduled game between Florida and LSU, which will be played on November 19th in Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. Now, LSU has Southern Mississippi today, 4-2 on the Golden Eagles. This is a non-conference game, but LSU gets an extra home game against Florida rather than having to go on the road as they were scheduled to last week. Leonard Fournette, by the way, not expected to play in this game against Southern Mississippi. And I know there's been a lot of he said and she said back and forth about the LSU-Florida discussions and the decision to play in Baton Rouge. Look, you can understand both sides. Florida lost 2 home games, by the way. But the big thing is now, this puts Florida at a real disadvantage competitively just on the field, having to play a road game now.
And I really think, going back to Tennessee, Alabama, it changes, to me, the impact of that potential loss for Tennessee, because even if the Vols lose today, and now they have 2 conference losses, with Florida now having to go to Baton Rouge, tough place to play, and I think LSU's on their way of kind of turning things around there a little bit. I still think Tennessee, even with a loss today, as I said earlier, they're still in Atlanta playing in the SEC title.
So Florida's going to lose to LSU then?
Or somebody else, yeah.
Well, I think that's their best shot. Their best shot was to lose to LSU. Now playing them on the road obviously makes it tougher. The only thing that would be worse would be a night game.
Yeah, I can't believe they have to play them now with a healthy Fournette. I mean, you got to think, because this kid's been sitting out game after game after game. He's not going to play this today. So, you know, by November 19th, he'll be healthy.
Yeah, that's for sure. So you got
He's not any good. We talk
LSU and Southern Mississippi. Ogeron thinking that he'll be back next week for Leonard Fournette. And LSU, of course, mourning the passing of their beloved mascot, Mike Six. They'll have a little decal on the helmet today to honor his passing. Also in the SEC West today, Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville, Arkansas taking on Ole Miss. You know, the Hogs are 5-16 under Bielema against ranked opponents, but 2-0 against old Hotty Toddy, and one of them coming in dramatic fashion in our blimp-worthy moment presented by Goodyear. Last November, last chance, Brandon Allen. Hunter Henry, that's a heads-up play.
Yes, it is.
Down.
And look at the hop for Alex Collins.
Well, that's the thing, of all people for the ball to go to, right?
Henry's toss there ultimately cost Ole Miss a chance to get to the SEC championship. This loss right here in the fashion in which they lost the game.
That face mask right there gave him another two-point conversion opportunity, too, and then the run-in.
And then Allen gets in. Bielema wins at 53-52. Holly Rowe with Hugh Freeze.
Well, Coach Freeze, this game was such a crazy finish last year. How have you chosen to address or not address that with your team this season?
Yeah, we haven't talked about it at all. I mean, I've heard the media's asked me about it, and of course, when you replay it in your mind, it's not one that I like remembering. It was a great football game, but I thought we had won it twice there at the end, and I give credit to them. They found a way to win it, and but we haven't talked about it as a team. I think every year's a new year. We have a different DNA this year, a lot younger in a lot of spots, and I'm certain they do also. So we haven't really addressed that. We just addressed preparing for this Arkansas team.
You talk about the youth of your defense in particular. How can you get them in a place where they don't give up the explosive plays that you're worried about?
That's really the key for us, I think. The games where we have not given up those explosive plays, we've been pretty effective. And this team is very good at getting explosive plays. So we've had to work really hard. And I think some of our young DBs have grown up some. But they still, you know, with all the things they do that can distract your eyes, they can certainly create explosive plays, so we have got to be very disciplined with our eyes.
Explosive plays could be a key, but I'm going to tell you, the Hogs have been getting gashed by them. They've given up 8 plays of 50 yards or longer. Only Syracuse and Rice have allowed more than that, but both of these quarterbacks are in position to be able to make some big plays.
And, you know, when you look at Chad Kelly and Austin Allen, both guys are very similar. I mean, they're both completing about 63% of their passes. Both guys are throwing at least 13 touchdowns and at the minimum 5 picks. So I think they're playing well right now. Obviously, Austin Allen's coming off of that Alabama game a week ago. But defensively, I think the difference is Ole Miss's defense is very athletic up front. Arkansas isn't. So I think that you're going to see Ole Miss defense come right after Austin Allen, just like they saw a week ago Alabama's defense do. And I think that's going to be the difference. Like you already said, Reese, Arkansas's defense has given up some big plays. They will continue to give up big plays to Chad Kelly, too.
The problem in the trenches there for Arkansas's offensive line against a very talented defensive line of Ole Miss, but I think Allen still has a chance to make plays, but he's going to have to outscore Chad Kelly. If Ole Miss's offense, it's amazing to think that it's possible for them to get better from where they were a year ago, but they have done that, and it's the up-tempo and it's the confusion that Chad Kelly has really mastered. Here's motion against, this is Alabama's defense. Watch how just a little thing like that affects the eyes of the back end. The safeties, they come up because they think it's going to be possibly a jet sweep. One-on-one, you got to make a play. And DeMarais Stringfellow is able to go up again against Marlon Humphrey from Bama and high point the ball and make a play. Evan Ingram, to me, the best tight end in the country. They love to flex him out. He's like a receiver. There's the confusion because of the up-tempo again. And you combine the confusion with Chad Kelly's comfort and knowledge in the offense, worked tirelessly with Ingram in the offseason. Those two are in sync. They'll be in sync today again. Again, a little sweep action. Look at the linebackers. Look at the safeties. They have to respect it. It affects their eyes because, again, the up-tempo, everybody's looking around. Look at somebody sneaks behind coverage. And that is Alabama's defense. So Ole Miss right now, they did the same thing to Florida State. You turn on a film every single week. It's not just the plays that Hugh Freeze is calling. I think it's really, David, the fact that Chad Kelly understands this offense to the nth degree, and he's running it at a pace that makes it very, very tough for defense. You can appreciate that. They don't know if it's up, it's back, it's coming and going.
Yeah,
you know?
It's definitely confusing. And Greenlaw their best linebacker out, obviously, with the foot. So I think that he makes it even more difficult. But you talked about it before you did your tape, too. The battle of the trenches. Austin Allen's proven to be one of the toughest quarterbacks in the country, and he's got to be because he gets hit. Almost 50% of his dropbacks, he's getting punched right by somebody's hitting him right in the mouth every single time. Look at a 6-man protection, 6 men on 4. You're supposed to win this, right? Not even close. Ryan Anderson comes off the edge, I mean, basically untouched. And what it's done, has forced him into poor mechanics. In turn, has led into big mistakes down the field that have been capitalized. Last week on Bama, you saw a pick 6 because of it. And Ole Miss, I think the strength of their defense is their defensive line. They're hyperactive. You saw them against Ole Miss. They do a great job of getting after the passer. Multiple guys they can shuffle in and out and do this. You saw Austin Allen have to move his feet, get off of his spot, make a throw with bad footwork. I think that's what you're going to see. Even against Alabama, you see Ole Miss, it doesn't matter. Play action pass, they want to make plays down the field. They want to hand the ball off, it doesn't matter. Against the run, they're physical up front. So I think it's the matchup between them and the trenches is going to decide. And Austin Allen, he's a great quarterback, like you talked about, Des, with Chad Kelly, but he doesn't have time. Right. He doesn't have the time he needs to make plays. They need to protect him better. They need to run the football better.
You know, the one thing they have been able to do, Arkansas, is control the ball. They have about a 10-minute edge in time of possession. Ole Miss is worst in the SEC at forcing.
That could be because that defense has given up so many big plays. You're right back on the field.
It all melds together. You know what? The last 6 times, Ole Miss has been a road favorite. They've lost outright 4 times. What do you think the Bears?
Bear, what do you think of this one here, bud?
I think Ole Miss is still a top 10 team in the country, and I think the fact that they've lost.
Yeah, but they got 2 losses.
Yeah, you can't say that. Yeah, you can't say that.
So if you play, Alabama and Florida State in September, a lot of teams would have 2 losses.
But I can't believe you're going to put a 2-loss team.
You got to wait until everybody loses 2, then you can move up.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Here are the rules for deciding best teams.
Yeah, how's that work?
This does not make you a better team.
Give us the
Having fewer
guidelines.
losses does not make you a better team. Winning a conference does not make you a better team.
Okay.
Losing earlier than someone does not make you a better team. Things that make you a better team. Watch them play. I think they're better. Efficiency numbers, I think they're better. They rate better. Tougher schedule, have quality wins. That means you're better.
Here's what Bear just did. I was 3-0 last week.
Absolutely.
I got a question for you.
That's true.
Yeah,
Reese alluded to a trophy game earlier. You know, we're in Big Ten country. A lot of trophies being played. It's a trophy game today. You guys know what it is?
No, I don't.
Played here in Big Ten country?
I will recuse myself. I'll recuse
Rubber Bowl. I don't know.
No.
The Red Beans and Rice Bowl.
Red Beans and
Central
Rice.
Arkansas, McNeese State. It's a new one.
Oh, good.
I've only been played 8 times.
Red Beans.
Red Beans
got
and
to pick.
Rice. Seems like it should be played in Louisiana.
That was not.
Scottie Pippen's alma mater, right?
It's got to be in Lake Charlestown.
That was not on the board.
Shout out to my boy Pip. What's up, Pip?
Red Beans.
Yeah, shout out to Scottie
Bear all those signs out there because he's making people money now. You know, last week when you were with Samantha on You Had One Job, you guys had Ole Miss quarterback Chad Kelly in there because he ran out on the field with a little fracas, Sam. What about the Chad Kelly and the You Had One Job appearance?
Yeah, he actually apologized this week and said he regretted it. His head coach, Hugh Freeze, was just talking to him about, hey, man, we're trying to rebuild your brand and rewrite your story here. So that doesn't help us out. He won't be on the show today, but we will have a story about Joey Julius from Jen Latta.
Disgusting, ugly. I mean, I was just, I was always calling myself fat. Body image issues were probably one of my biggest things.
You won't want to miss that story. And stay tuned for more great game day signs later in the show, brought to you by Pizza Hut. Yeah, we're going to have an award for the best sign on the show, and so far it's been all Ken Bone. Oh, even Stevie. Stevie showed up. Oh, come on, guys. And as shiny as ever, the College Football Playoff National Championship Trophy presented by Dr. Pepper. And Sports Center tonight, you won't want to miss it after the game with John Buccigross and Nicole Briscoe on ESPN. Stay tuned for that. And a whole lot more coming up on College Game Day from Madison, Wisconsin, getting ready for the Buckeyes and the Badgers. We'll be right back.
In the 1820s, the Wisconsin Territory became a land of lead mining. The miners who arrived from around the world loved digging for lead. They did not, however, dig the Wisconsin winters. At night, they would find shelter by burrowing into the holes they dug, just like a badger, so that became their nickname. In 1848, the University of Wisconsin was founded. In 1889, they decided they needed a nickname, a tough nickname. Nothing was tougher than those miners, those badgers. So that's who they became, and that name becomes them. Right, Bucky?
Like a little history lesson for Pollock. That was good.
Always learning.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, sure. Like the Badger don't care. He takes what he wants. Hoping he takes a victory against Ohio State. Tonight, if we stand on the grounds, speaking of these miners, this is Madison's first cemetery at one point. It's right behind us.
Okay.
More history for us.
Good.
Well, they've moved it now.
Kenny Bond's out there.
Hey, we told you that the Big Ten's flexing its muscles now. 4 teams in the top 10, but the team that's won 2 of the last 3 conference championships. Oh, Sparty's looking puny now. They've lost 3 in a row for the first time since 2009, Des.
Yeah, well, you can say that again. Northwestern plays Sparta today, I tell you what. In order for Northwestern to be in this game, their quarterback, Clay Thurston, he's going to have to complete some tough passes on 3rd down and the red zone. That man right there, Justin Jackson, he's going to have to rush for at least over 5 yards. Sparty's defense just hasn't played with that energy we used to see in Kirk.
I tell you, showing this slate shows our commitment to showing as many games as we can possibly get in. Minnesota and Maryland. Lee Finning's actually at this game, believe it or not. He's going to take that one in. Almost Scotty Van Pelt.
All right, well, let's get on to Iowa. Iowa, I tell you what, they haven't been able to run the football successfully. Shuffled the O-line. Last week you saw them get back to running the football a little bit more. They're going to have to.
Come on, Hawks.
Wadley and Daniels Jr. I tell you what, Purdue's got an offense.
Yes, they do.
They have a good offense, but they lead the league in turnovers. Stop turning the football over.
They're
Create a
dangerous.
little bit more on defense, it'd be great.
Yep.
Number 10 and undefeated Nebraska at Indiana. Tommy Armstrong's got a tender ankle. He's missing a couple of weapons. Westerkamp and Ethan Carter both out. He's got the top QBR in the Big Ten.
Yep.
IU defense gave up some running room against J.T. Barrett. Divine Redding could run against the defense. Corso would be proud. You know why we're showing coach at Indiana? Because these two teams are meeting for the first time since it was Lee Corso against Dr. Tom Osborne back in 1978. Coach would not like to comment on the outcome of that game.
But they have classic fans.
69-17.
Why'd you have to throw the school there?
Just in the interest of getting all the information. Some other information about Nebraska's current coach. Mike Riley has turned things around. Last year, they were a disaster at the end of the game, losing 5 in the final seconds, among the worst turnover teams in the country. This year, among the top 25 in turnover margin and outscoring their opponents 78-6 in the fourth quarter. That is best in the country. The leader of the Children of the Corn, Mike Riley, Wired.
Smart, show him your grill. I got to go get it. Hey, Big Shot, did Jay give you the short shirt today again, huh?
I really enjoy practice. That's my classroom, and guys are learning. There's a million things going on in the field, but the organization of the thing should look like it's all about growth.
Everybody's got quick feet. There you go. Just two-gap that guy, right? You don't know where it's going, but you're so strong, then you can go to the ball.
Well, we're certainly pleased with being ranked. The seasons always end up being, when you look back on it, they always end up with how you finish. The ultimate goal is to win the Big Ten championship and then see where that takes us.
That's about the right spot, Trey.
So Nebraska 5-0 one more time, but look at what's happened the last several times they've started 5-0. They've lost their 6th game. The last time they pushed it to 6-0, 2001. They ended up playing for the BCS championship, but lost that game. Okay, Nebraska has a really good opportunity, maybe a tough game at Indiana, but depending on what happens here at Camp Randall, they could create some separation, at least for the time being, between themselves and Wisconsin.
Big thing that I'm seeing with Mike Riley's offense here in his second year is the balance. You know, last year they ran the ball okay, but they really relied on Tommy Armstrong to throw it, and consequently he turned it over a lot. 16 interceptions so far this year. Talked about his efficiency. Only 2 interceptions. He's making great decisions. I'm interested today to see how his ankle will hold up. Remember, last week we saw J.T. Barrett run for over 100 yards against this same Indiana defense. I think Armstrong's the key in this game today. Balance, running and throwing, and continuing to make those great decisions that he's doing.
Well, I think they've also adapted the system a little bit better to Tommy Armstrong. So he's going to have to run the football. His best back's out, tight end, wide receiver. I mean, they're banged up big time. Do we think? That's the question. Do y'all think Nebraska's for real?
Yeah, they look great to me.
How for real?
It depends on your
definition. How for real? For real? Are they contenders? Are they a top 10 team?
Yeah.
Are they a top 10 team?
Top 10 team?
They're a top 10 team right now. Are they a top 10 team to you guys?
Their best win was Oregon, and now we see what Oregon looks like. So I don't know if I can say they're a top 10 team right now. I think I can come up with probably 10 teams that are better than Nebraska right now.
Bear thinks they're top 10.
Do you really?
What?
Talking about last segment. They're in the top 10 because they're 5-0, and they've beaten everybody they played. If they play Florida State and Alabama, would they be 5-0?
That's what I just said. Like their best win was Oregon, and we see what the Ducks look like right now.
Again,
So we get to learn a lot about them today.
7 times and whatever it was. And missed.
Exactly.
Give them credit for winning.
I just can't believe you're dogging Nebraska like that. Huh?
Why is he coming down so hard on the corner?
We're celebrating the Big Ten.
Exactly. We're in Big Ten country.
Are they a top 10 team?
Yeah, I think they look great so far.
Is this a debate?
Wait a minute. He's not the only one.
Who else?
Answer the question.
Bear's not the only one dogging Nebraska. Apparently, maybe the public a little bit. Bear, this line went. What happened there? It went from a touchdown to cut in half.
Nebraska's been weird the last couple of years. They started out like a 7-8 point favorite. It's down to 3. But, like, everyone's still playing Nebraska, according to the money line out there.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's one of those – Vegas is like saying, come on, keep playing Nebraska. They know Indiana's pretty good.
Exactly. I think Indiana's a really good team,
They didn't even play well a couple of weeks ago and beat Michigan State. The Ohio State game for a while. Indiana's good.
They are.
If Nebraska wins, they're going to have to earn it today.
Does Indiana have the toughness, though? We'll have to find out today if they can match that toughness from Nebraska.
Look, you guys might not believe in Nebraska, but if Indiana wins this game, it'll be their first victory over a top 10 opponent since 1987 when they beat Ohio State, which Earl Bruce, I believe, called maybe the darkest day
Anthony
in his
Thompson,
tenure.
I think,
back. It was a good Bill Mallory team back then in 1987. Penn State in the Big Ten has a bye today, but one Nittany Lion has not been getting a pass from anybody, it seems. Their kicker, Joey Julius, a tackling machine. Return teams have taken plenty of shots at him. Jen Latta joins us now. And Jen, toughness in this case is not necessarily just about tackling.
You're absolutely right, Reese. This story part of a collaboration with our friends over at Good Morning America. Joey Julius was such a talented soccer player in high school that he could have played that sport at the Division I level in college. But it was the adrenaline rush he felt when he kicked a game-winning field goal in high school and hoping to duplicate that rush, that high, those cheers at the college level that made him switch sports. Privately, however, he was dealing with unimaginable lows. And the voices that he heard most loudly were judgmental and cruel, and they were coming from inside his own head.
Julius has it teed up.
This is how the football world sees Joey Julius.
And Julius, the man doing the cover and downfield. Oh, that's a kicker's dream right there as he throws a return man down.
He loves to cover his own kicks.
He'll be a legend forever.
Probably one of the best athletes I ever witnessed in person. He could have been a star on the soccer team, the football team, basketball team, or baseball team. And when you look at him now, I don't think people realize what type of athlete he really is.
But up until very recently, Joey Julius saw himself very differently.
Disgusting, ugly. I mean, I was always calling myself fat. I would, kind of pick at certain parts of my body I didn't like. Body image issues were probably one of my biggest things.
It was just a few weeks ago that the Penn State kicker explained those feelings in a Facebook post, revealing a very personal battle with an eating disorder.
Due to my increase in not only weight but also depression and anxiety, my team physicians started to notice not only a change in my overall happiness, but also my performance as a normal human being. They pulled me aside and they're like, hey, You can't even function during like workouts and things like that. My health was like completely deteriorated. And that's when they're like, all right, let's try to send you to a treatment center.
In May, Joey began a 3-month stay at an inpatient facility in Missouri. There, he was diagnosed with binge eating disorder, or BED. He says his unhealthy relationship with food started when he was just 10.
I was overweight as a kid. I got bullied a lot. You know, I took all those emotions and I put it into food. I mean, food was my escape. For me, it was restriction, it was hiding, because I used to hide food from people out of embarrassment because I was ashamed.
You could tell he was getting a little bit more withdrawal in his senior year.
I do think probably there were some things going on that maybe we should have seen some red flags, but unfortunately we didn't.
After I would get done eating, I would have to lay down to the point where I was so sick I couldn't move. I hated myself.
According to the National Eating Disorders Association, binge eating disorder is the most common eating disorder in the country. 40% of those who struggle with BED are men. Many are athletes, and many will not seek help or treatment.
We have this whole, stigma of just being a man and being a football player and, rub some dirt on it. Don't cry. When I was in treatment, I was one of maybe 2 guys, in my unit.
Joey rejoined his team in early August, and he's enjoying football more than he ever has before. He now sees that his story is nothing to be ashamed of, and he hopes the world sees another side of his strength.
Before games, I could barely function last year. It was really hard just to get out to the game. And now it's just like I'm going out and having fun with my friends.
He can make people aware that, hey, this does happen to normal kids. This happens to very athletic kids in Joey's situation.
I had a problem and I needed to get help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I asked for help and it changed my life.
A hidden struggle, hidden no more. Joey says that since he put the post there, he said that many people have reached out to him. He also mentioned that his teammates were incredibly supportive. They came to him and said, "You are our teammate, you are our family, we have your back, no matter what." Reese?
Jen, that's a great story. Our support as well to Joey Julius, who's given us a lot of fun watching him on the field, run down on those kickoff teams and make some big hits. Still to come on College Game Day. The Irish and the Cardinal, both with significant problems. Fixable, or do they face seasons now at the tipping point? What is going on with Notre Dame and Stanford, an off-the-radar game that was huge marquee a year ago? Here in Madison, what a scene behind us on Bascom Hill as we check in at the Home Depot Game Day tailgate. That Chef Matt Pace from Bassett Street Brunch here in Madison. We got some brats on there. That's probably pork. Desmond, come on. Just try it.
Dig on in, exactly.
One time.
Not.
Delicious.
Not.
I got some good friends that live down the street. Got a good-looking woman with her arms around me. Live in a small town where it feels like home. I got everything I need and nothing that I don't.
You can just feel football in the air. Madison. This is a beautiful campus. The day's a little bit gray, unlike yesterday, but that just makes you know that Brutus is ready to go. You think Coach will put on the Brutus headgear at the end of the show?
Last week was one of your reunions.
That was the first one. Coming up on College Game Day, Tennessee trying to end a losing streak against Alabama. We'll tell you what that rivalry means and what is going on at Oregon. Tough times and tough questions from Mark Helfrich as he has a conversation with Tom Rinaldi about how he plans to restore Oregon. A couple of years ago, Oregon played Ohio State for the CFP title. J.T. Barrett had to watch how he has found strength in his journey, even when he has been detoured. This crowd is ready for this showdown coming up tonight between Ohio State and Wisconsin. Ohio State has won 7 of the last 8 meetings, but Paul Chryst already with a couple of victories over top 10 opponents. Wisconsin's never beaten 3 top 10 teams, and perhaps they're going all scriptural on the people in hopes that Chryst can lead them to a victory tonight. Paul Chryst chatted with Tom Rinaldi.
Paul, start with good on good, and that's your rush defense against their rush offense, which has been potent. How do you stop them?
Well, that'll be that's the challenge, right? That's why we play the game, and there's no doubt that they do a heck of a job offensively, and certainly the running game is a big part of it. And, you know, our defense has done a lot of really good things, and we'll be tested maybe different than any other way we've been tested to this point, and that's the challenge, but that challenge is also the opportunity.
Seems like every week you're playing a top 10 opponent. What's the advantage in that leading into a game like this?
Well, I don't know what exactly the advantage is. I do know that our kids have done a great job of embracing it, and they really are. We know their challenges, but those are great opportunities. And I know I just said that about another part of our team, but it's the truth. And I think as long as the kids stay in the moment, which they've done, then you go out and work during the week and prepare yourself best you can, and then you get to go play the game. And the game is fun to play, and that's what I like about our team is they enjoy playing the game. They enjoy playing it with each other. The team matters, and so it's been fun. But what the games do, I don't know. Each one's its own.
Appreciate the time, and good luck to you, Paul.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Tom, Paul, thank you. Saturday Night Football on ABC, also streaming live on the ESPN app, and watch ESPN. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 8, Wisconsin, headlining a fine slate of college football as we reach this 3rd Saturday in October. This game, the Alabama-Tennessee game this afternoon, the 2 top 10 matchups, several other notable games on the docket that we've touched on, including North Carolina and Miami, both coming off disappointing losses this afternoon on ABC or ESPN2. But conspicuous by its absence on this particular graphic, Notre Dame and Stanford. Remember last November, there were playoff implications. DeShone Kizer gave the Irish the lead late. Notre Dame could taste the playoff, but then Hogan finds Devin Kajus, Kevin Hogan marching his team down the field. Conrad Ukrapina, good. And just like that, Notre Dame loses 38-36. They were bounced out of playoff consideration. Stanford was right on the cusp of it. And then this year's game bears no resemblance whatsoever after last year being one of the best games of the season. If you anticipate something like we saw last year to this year, that's sort of like getting ready to be served a beautiful Wagyu filet and instead getting a plate full of cold Spam. What you have in this game is an Irish defense that hasn't stopped anybody against a Stanford offense that hasn't moved on anybody. Something has to give? Spam anybody?
Game is over. NC State knocks off Notre Dame.
It's very realistic to assume Notre Dame could be average or slightly above average and still get to 9 wins, maybe even 10 wins, and now we're talking about them barely making a bowl.
On my behalf, I probably should have done a better job of preparing them for the eventuality of close games. There's a little bit of inexperience there, quite frankly.
We need to get back to who we are, and that's focusing up on figuring out a way of getting wins. When you're 2-4 right now, everyone has to point the finger at themselves and look themselves in the mirror and accept those challenges so that we can come out and be more successful.
And for the first time under David Shaw, Stanford loses consecutive games.
Everything we've done up to this point, we just need to do better. We have to be able to run the ball with efficiency. We have to be able to keep the quarterback in rhythm. We have a lot of guys who are still learning on the fly. We have some guys who are gaining experience, and we have to make sure that experience counts going forward.
This is what the Irish have left, sitting at 2-4, can only afford a couple of more losses if they want to be bowl eligible, and several of the FPI percentages not working in Notre Dame's favor. So as they come to this 52% chance to win against the Cardinals today, Desmond, do you look at this as the tipping point for the Notre Dame season right now? That this is sort of in or out, salvage a season or let it get away?
I think it's at that point right now. I think that Notre Dame is on the cusp of not making a bowl game. I think they're going to have a losing season depending on what happens today. And I didn't see this coming because a year ago, I was giving Brian Kelly a lot of credit because week in and week out, every week they would lose a starter, but they remained competitive. They had great leadership. They lost by 2 points on the road to Clemson, and again, a big game in Stanford on the road. They lost by 2 points. So I thought this team was a team that was resilient. I never saw this coming this season. I don't think they have great leadership. I think Deshaun Kaiser really played better when Malik Zaire was breathing down his back. You know, I think they say steel sharpens steel. I think that competitive edge kept him going out there playing at a high level. So at this point now, I don't think, Coach, that they're going to make a bowl game, especially if they lose today to Stanford.
Well, I disagree with you. I think there's a Notre Dame's on going to have a turnaround, and it's going to happen today. It starts today. Their new defensive coordinator, Hudson, is working on team pursuit, fundamentals, and especially game tackling. That's going to help them.
Right.
Now, Kaiser, the quarterback, is the finest quarterback they've had there in 20 years. He's a great leader and a great man. I think they're going to go from 2-4. They're going to win enough to go to a bowl game in the sunshine.
Wow.
They're going to go to a bowl game in the sunshine. 2-4.
In the sunshine.
In the sunshine. That's very important.
Other than the Pinstripe Bowl, I think most of them. It's not maybe the sunshine that they want, but that'd be a heck of an accomplishment sitting at 2-4. I do almost feel like this is like a reset button year for Brian Kelly and for Notre Dame. I personally think we have to kind of keep in perspective where they've been for the last 6 years under Coach Kelly. It's a 9-3 team. It's a team that played in the national championship in 2012. And honestly, they were just a couple plays away last year against Clemson and Stanford from having a shot to get to the playoff again. So one of those years, David, I don't see the skill on defense and the monsters in the trenches that they need to be able to be competitive week in and week out.
That's the only thing they've been missing. And let's be honest, I mean, last year they were an offensive team too. They weren't great defensively. Identity-wise, they missed 81 tackles. They only sacked the quarterback once. You got to find playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. That's what they're missing. They got to find a system too that's more bend, don't break. Don't be as aggressive.
That's how they were.
Don't give up the big plays. That's what they were in the championship in 2012.
Well, we guys talk about monsters in the front seven, but how about their back four? I mean, their secondary is slow, and it's non-athletic.
It's young. It's been injured. They've had some attrition.
Suspension.
What about Stanford, though? I mean, Stanford's got 9 offensive touchdowns all season. Are their problems fixable?
This season, no. I don't see them being fixable. Again, Stanford's gotten away with great quarterback play in the past, a great running game, but never having electric, dynamic players on the outside. They don't have a great quarterback now. They're struggling on that end. Hey, listen, he's inexperienced. That's what happens. You go from 4-year starter and Andrew Luck or 3-year starter, and then you go to Kevin Hogan, who played a lot of ball. You see, they can't push anybody around either. Let's be honest. Their offensive line is as bad as it's been since we've seen it. Couple that with the defense.
Luck, though, they haven't had great quarterback play. They have just been efficient
Hogan
guys.
Was pretty good, though.
I mean, pretty good, but not great. I mean, great is like a big word. I think Luck was great. Luck was elite. I think they've had efficient quarterback play because David Shaw is a great coach. He's a great quarterback coach and a great offensive mind. Last year, they relied heavily on Christian McCaffrey, and coming to this season, they did the same, and people just crowded the box, and they made them beat them with their arm, make the quarterback beat them with their arm, and they don't have a quarterback that can do that.
When I think of Stanford, I think of offensive line play. I think of being able to run the power play when the defense knows it's coming, but they've been so gifted up front that they were still able to do that. They can't do it right now. It's made them one-dimensional. Defenses are locked in on number 5, and nobody else right now has an answer, and that's what they're going to have to develop. If they're going to find a way to do it this year, they're going to have to find somebody besides Christian McCaffrey. And the other thing is, that defense for about 5, 6, 7 years were ballers. I mean, big, mean, and athletic guys. They have a few, but not as much as they've had in the past.
It happens, they just took a step backwards. It happens to most teams except Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
Alabama.
Stanford, David Shaw saying that he didn't anticipate the offensive line play to be where it is right now, but Stanford has done a good job recruiting long-term, so we see how it's going. By the way, Bear pointing out, toss-up games, that means the spread 4 or less. Last 8 times Notre Dame's been in a game like that, 1-7. Woo. I don't know if that influences you.
That's a good tip. Texas.
Wow, that is. Okay. Change my pick. Change my pick. Pay attention.
To think of you. And maybe here, Notre Dame could use some divine intervention and Staples at Wisconsin games. Maybe Wisconsin hoping for a little help.
I want you guys meet Sister Mary. And Mary,
how you doing?
Mary.
How are you?
I met them out there. fans.
What are these girls at least?
I hear you, Coach.
I know.
Coach has got it going.
They can't stay to lead, didn't they?
Go Irish.
Go.
You're gonna give him a little pop there, sister.
Go Notre Dame, guys.
She's going to give it to you, not lead.
Hey, Notre Dame.
Hey, I can tell you this. This is definitely a group that needs some blessing. No doubt about that. Ohio State quarterback J.T. Barrett overcame a mistake and even upped his leadership.
I'm sitting there like, Jay, you really messed up this time, huh?
College Game Day, built by the Home Depot, is brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world, and Coca-Cola. Taste the feeling. Countdown to Kickoff is brought to you by Coca-Cola. Taste the feeling.
DJ Jill Strange got the red crowd revved up here. Grateful Red. Ready to go. That's what they call it in basketball, and they'll have a great student section tonight, as will Clemson homecoming, Death Valley. Dabo and the players, by the way, delivered some pizzas to some of the people working on floats. They haven't lost to an unranked team since 2011 when they lost to North Carolina State. 44 straight against unranked, 19 straight at home. Dabo with Todd McShay.
Coach, the offense has started clicking the last couple of weeks. What's been the focus getting ready for this NC State defense that's really been a lot better than anyone expected this year?
Yeah, really just the same things that we've tried to focus on all year, and that's just, executing our plan to win and trying to win at the point of attack. It always starts up front for us and playing within the system, taking what's there. We've had some teams that have loaded up and have forced us to throw the ball, and then we've had other games where we've really been able to establish the balance that we like to have. But the biggest thing is just, again, finding a way to run the football, which sets up all of our rhythm and play action that we want to have, taking care of the ball. We did a good job last week and with 0 turnovers. And then just playing within the system, not trying to do too much, just taking what's there and making good adjustments throughout the game.
Dabo, the Clemson flag making an appearance here in Madison. They're going to get some reinforcements. Austin Bryant expected to play a little bit, coming back from that broken foot at defensive end. Hunter Renfro's also improving from the broken hand. Has cost him some time. Deshaun Watson had to step up his game against the Pack last year because they scored. Puncher's chance, NC State?
No, I like the way Clemson's playing right now.
All right.
NC State's playing good, but Finley will throw his first interception today, though.
That's
he hasn't
your
thrown
prediction.
one on the season, but he
one
will
of
throw
only
one.
3 starting quarterbacks that hasn't so far.
I think the skill from NC State can move the football, and I think Finley's doing a great job. Boise State transfer doing a nice job. I don't think they're going to win the game.
Can you bring that weather from last week? If you bring that weather from last week, I give him a chance.
That changed things for sure.
Hey,
so if Clemson's in control
in that weather before. It's Notre Dame.
That's right. They did just fine. They're in control in the Atlantic. And look who's back in the Coastal, Virginia Tech, after a big win, Kirk.
Yeah, it's been nice to see this. How about this quarterback, Gerard Evans, just really in control of this system, running, throwing. I think this offense now, Isaiah Ford on the outside, Bud Foster still holdover defensive coordinator, has this defense playing with a ton of confidence. They are I think a team that is growing in confidence every single week, and a team to keep in mind as we go along in the ACC and start thinking about that Coastal Division.
How about Wake Forest, man, against Florida State? I tell you what, this Demon Deacons defense, if you haven't watched them, make sure you check out number 53, Duke Ejiofor. This guy, 6'4", 270 pounds. He's a student of the game, tries to destroy the tackles in front of him. He doesn't have his hands full, though, because DeAndre Francois against Miami, he played well. He got his butt kicked for 4 quarters.
Yes, he did, but he responded. And another guy who's going to have to respond is Mitch Trubisky. Last week, when you saw him play, he struggled. But Brad Kaya, the one mistake last week for Brad Kyle was in the end zone. He has a turnover, makes a bad play. Otherwise, I think Miami might have won that ball game. He needs to take better care of the football. And then Mitch Trubisky, last week, his worst game. First 2 interceptions of the season. He's got to respond. Quarterback duel should be a lot of fun to watch.
And the ACC's had a bit of a resurgence. They've got 3 of the top 8 teams in the country. Louisville got by Duke on Friday night, a little rainy situation there. In the top 20 of the FBI, the SEC has 7 of those teams, but you mix in Virginia Tech, North Carolina, and the ACC has got 6 of the top 30. So the question then becomes, you look at it, is the ACC, could you make the claim the ACC is the best conference?
I think, you know, if you're an ACC fan, you may be able to make that argument. I think they've become very competitive, though. And you got to give a lot of credit to the ADs who brought some great coaches in to that conference. Right now, Clemson, in my opinion, is still, they're the torchbearer. That's the standard of the conference. Dabo Swinney's team, they didn't start off the way we thought they would at the beginning of the season, but now they're gaining momentum. You don't want to peak too soon. I like what I see right now, the Clemson Tigers. They're the standard bearer, but the ACC is more competitive than we've seen previously.
I think there's 2 different ways to look at this. There's top-heavy conference, who has the best teams at the top. I think the Big Ten right now can make a very strong case for their teams at the top as far as the teams that are competing. And then I think you have to look at the depth. If you look at the depth, after you look at the top 3, who is 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8? And I think that's where the SEC still, in my mind, has the depth. But the top 3, again, I think the Big Ten definitely is in that discussion.
Yeah, it's because they got Ohio State and Michigan, who are Final Four contenders.
Absolutely.
I think the SEC only has 1. I think they're only going to have 1. I think that's going to be Bama that's going to be fighting for that Final Four spot because I think A&M will lose. But I also think the ACC has 2 with Louisville and Clemson. So I think it's a good debate, but I think you could take all 3 of these conferences and top-heavy Big Ten ACC, they win, but the SEC with the depth, they win overall.
I'm going to tell you who likes the ACC.
Who likes the ACC?
Our buddy the Bear.
Oh, really?
He likes good football.
Bear's selling the ACC here right
now.
No,
I think at the top, what Kirk was saying, you take Florida State, Louisville, Clemson, that trio is better than any top trio in conference. But like you said, the depth, you factor in Auburn, in Georgia, and Florida, and the SEC, that makes them a better conference.
So you think that trio is better than Ohio State, Michigan, and Wisconsin?
Yes. I think there's a drop-off.
He thinks there's a drop-off.
I think there's a drop-off.
Well, he said that trio is better than any trio in any other conference. Yeah, I don't agree with that.
No, I don't. I said the Big Ten. But you're talking about the ACC, and you got Virginia Tech and Syracuse. Who do you got there? On your board
there. Nice little stale sandwich game for the Hokies. Big win last week. Home game, short week, Thursday night, Miami. Go on the road to the Dome. Big favorite. They're not going to lose, but this is going to be like a 42-28 type game. Syracuse's offense has put up some points on Notre Dame, put up some points on Louisville. Orange won't win, but they'll hang around at home.
Stale sandwich. You got Bob Davey up there. You want to pick that one?
Pick it with
Revolution. He's playing the Cotton Bowl, by the way.
Wow.
Air Force, New Mexico, the Cotton Bowl. Lobo should get Terry and Gibson back. Big play running back that will help them. They gave up like 390 through the air last week to Boise. They're not going to worry about Air Force throwing the ball.
No.
2 hardcore running games. Underdog. I think it's a vintage Air Force team. New Mexico, I don't know if they'll win, but 14 points is a lot of points.
Let me tell you something, Bear. I appreciate you picking me.
Everybody has a Bob Davey.
Everybody does.
Football. We're trying to let the audience build a little bit throughout the morning before we start having Bear make the people some money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last week.
Bears midseason form last week, 3-0.
Yeah, he's got one more pick on the board there, Northwestern and Michigan State. See if he thinks that perhaps Michigan State can get things going. North Carolina State and Clemson as Coca-Cola counts us down to kickoff in Death Valley. David mentioned Ryan Finley and the great start that the Boise State transfer has gotten off to right now. So we'll see if he does indeed do what Pollock said and throw his first interception of the season. But perhaps there is someone like George Whitfield, who's with Samantha Ponder, who could help tell us why Ryan Finley hasn't had any of those picks, at least so far, as they run the gauntlet here.
Yeah, pretty impressive. George, you know, the guys were just talking about the ACC. There's actually an argument to be made that the quarterbacks in the ACC are the most impressive in the country. We know all about Deshaun and Lamar and DeAndre, but they just showed Ryan Finley. Also, Gerard Evans having a strong year. A guy who started out at Air Force, tears his ACL, goes the JUCO route, now ends up with Justin Fuente. How would you describe the way he's evolved?
Sam, I love watching both of these two guys. It's a progress. It's a system of progress, especially being so young relative to starts.
He's 22.
Yeah, but you're right.
But starts,
in
I
relative to
gotcha.
starts.
I gotcha.
Here's Ryan Finley. I want to show you here what they're doing early on. His job is to recognize the one-on-one early on. Here's red zone against Wake Forest. He gets a chance right here to make this shot. Ball could be up and outside, but that's all right. They still make a great big play. Here you go against East Carolina. Same thing. His job is to keep the free safety in the middle of the field. He does that. Coach Drinkowitz keeps it a one-on-one matchup on the outside, and he hits Stephen Lewis for the big gain. What they've done is play very efficiently. That's why you don't see any interceptions. Now, Pollock is right. He'll eventually have one or a couple, but it may not be today.
You talk about being efficient, almost 70% completion percentage. We had that a little backwards, so now we're going to get to Gerard at Virginia Tech. Only one pick for him, so he's been pretty effective so far also. How has he evolved?
Again, they have simplified the game for him, got him in some one-on-one situations, and I want to show you this. Offensive coordinator Brad Cornelson. His job, red zone, free safety, that's yours. I love this look because it simplifies everything for us. Get the ball up and outside. Again, Isaiah Ford right there for you. Big touchdown. Your job is to recognize the one-on-one and then to get it. And then here he's got Bucky Hodges on the bottom, Sam. He's running the go route. And then he's got Cam Phillips running the post. The safety that we just moved right there, which one does he play? He takes the post. So you take your one-on-one. Big shot for Hodges. Again, these two offenses need air support. They're not going to put up 400 yards a game. They're not. They need air support. Big third downs, make a play for us, change field position. But I think the offensive coordinators are the real story in what we just saw, how they're bringing their guys along.
We're trying to make stars here out of these quarterbacks, and you're just giving love to the offensive coordinators.
Injury time.
We'll also see Ryan Finley, though, against Clemson. We'll see if he's able to step up huge on a huge stage against the Tigers. Coming up on College Game Day, yeah, you had one job. We've seen that before. This week, though, a little bit different. Maybe an appearance from a head coach that they probably don't love too much around here. And that was that a sucker punch? Guy, what in the world? And when it comes to Tennessee and Alabama, why there's one Saturday like no other, the third one in October. College Game Day rolls on after this.
I got some good friends that live down the street. I got everything I need and nothing that I don't.
See a little smattering of Ohio State signs out there, reminding Wisconsin of that 59-0 game in the Big Ten Championship meeting a couple years ago. There's another one in the middle. A little bit of rain coming earlier than expected. We continue to work our way toward the start of your college football Saturday, just about 90 minutes away from the start of the games, and one of them, once again, at noon Eastern time, 11 in America's Heartland, involves the Oklahoma Sooners on ESPN. It'll follow Game Day. And here come the Sooners as they get ready to take on Kansas State. You know, Kansas State has at least a touchdown dog, has won the last 2 trips there, covered a 4-touchdown spread in 2009. There's the guy that Bob Stoops said has been a live wire after getting Oklahoma past Texas in that game a week ago. Sooners have a challenge against the Wizards.
Dressed casual on Saturday on Game Day, I guess. Casual Saturday. How about D.D. Westbrook last week? This offense, I think, after a bit of a slow start, starting to really become the balanced, explosive offense that we expected to see. But do not sleep on Kansas State's defense. They are very stout, especially today against the run.
Iowa State at Texas. Last year, Texas got shut out by Iowa State. This year's Texas problem in the offense, it's the defense. Longhorns allowed over 600 yards against Oklahoma. Iowa State scored 42 against Baylor. Watch out, watch out.
About West Virginia against Texas Tech. Now, the one thing we know about the Red Raiders, especially under Coach Cliff Kingsbury, is that they will give up big plays on defense routinely. And I think West Virginia's defense, they're playing stout football right now. That just might be the difference in today's matchup. And West Virginia is a team, man, that they take the ball and they take it to the house.
Baylor hosts Kansas. Shock Linwood leads the Bear rushing game. It's 5th best in the country. They ought to get another weapon back, too. Katie Cannon's coming back. Kansas narrowly missed against TCU. Baylor is likely to hand Kansas its record 38 straight road losses. Baylor tries to keep on the winning side.
Good snap, good hold. The kick is good. And there's zeros on the clock. Baylor wins over Iowa State.
The Iowa State game woke us up a little bit. Typically, if you go into a game where you're favored, especially if you're heavily favored, sometimes you get caught off guard. I think it's a good message for our whole football team that there's nobody left on our schedule that we're not capable of beating, but there's not anybody left on our schedule that's not capable of beating us.
You saw this week how games can sway one way or another. You have to bring your A game every game. As long as we focus on what we can do, execute at a high level, we can win ball games.
Baylor's been getting off to a bit of a slow start. If you look at the numbers, strength of schedule is what you would expect, though their strength of record's pretty good, and the rest of their strength of schedule from this point forward is pretty good, top 30 in the country going on, but still with the efficiencies down, you just don't know about Baylor. In fact, we have a question from an undecided about Baylor.
Herbie, Dez, Coach Corso, is Baylor really worth that number 11 ranking?
So, good question. What do you say? Are they worth the number 11 ranking?
Waco is a beautiful town. I've enjoyed the barbecue there when we go down there. Honestly, what Jim Grobe has done in a very, very difficult set of circumstances has been very impressive. Phil Bennett being on the defensive side, and I think holding on to the entire staff. Kendall Briles calling the plays. This is still a team that can score a lot of points. Seth Russell, quarterback, Shock Linwood, Katie Cannon, great group of receivers. But what Reese just said is accurate. We don't know. They beat Oklahoma State. They went on the road and beat Iowa State in Ames by 3 in a last-second field goal. But their last preseason game, it's like the NFL. It's like the last preseason game is today. Yeah. After this, it's at Texas, TCU, at Oklahoma, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and at West Virginia. We'll find out in the next few weeks. But right now, I don't know. I don't know who Baylor is.
They have beaten no one in the top 25. That's for sure. And we won't know till 2 games. At Oklahoma, at West Virginia in November. That will determine how good they are.
Yeah, well, they're like Nebraska to me. We still don't know because they haven't played anybody. And it starts today. I think that, but, you know, they've won their games. They got 3 teams ahead of them that with 1 loss, you know, 3 one-loss teams ahead of them. So I think they're where they're supposed to be right now. But that's why we keep playing the game. So be patient.
No, you know, and also you still have West Virginia sitting there undefeated. They've got a tough task at Texas Tech. Red Raiders have scored 50 or more, 9 straight at home. That's an NCAA record. Bear, how are you feeling about Texas Tech, West Virginia?
What do you want to know? How many?
It's just going to be a shootout, right?
Say service breaks. The typical Big 12 game. I will say this though: West Virginia's defense is played pretty well this year. So they're the one team that I think, and that maybe Kansas State played them last week, but maybe the one team that could slow them down a little bit.
Let me give you one more, Bear. Road teams won 5 straight. Kansas State, Oklahoma.
Windy weather there. No rain,
right.
but very windy. That could affect Oklahoma's passing game, and they're really beat up. I mean, K-State's gone in there the last couple of times as the big underdog and won. Be interesting today. K-State's defense is pretty good.
Especially against the run.
That wind is not going to affect Kansas State's passing game. Jesse Ertz is under 50%.
Not at all.
I think we have another question for the Bear from an undecided.
Bear, the number 1 and number 2 teams are big favorites today. Which one is least likely to cover?
Of which teams?
Number one, and number 2.
Least likely? I think there's a better chance Wisconsin beats Ohio State than there is Tennessee beating Alabama.
He knows what he's doing over there. Speaking of the Big Ten, you got another Big Ten game up on the Big Ten.
It's amazing how Michigan State has just fallen this year. Offense is a mess, quarterback play, and even a reliable defense that's been great. They're 82nd in the country in defensive efficiency right now. I mean, Northwestern's been a great underdog. I like the Purple Cats to go on the road. Another win for Pat Fitz and the boys.
There you go.
Good pick, outright. Good pick.
You got it outright.
Outright win, huh?
And that caller, it looked like the Bear's brother. That's your brother, Bear?
Long lost brother.
It was split screen. That's funny.
So somebody on our staff now has one job, and that is to find a red sweater for the Bear. No. Might be able to find a few out there.
And it's stashed.
Reese, they're sold out. They are sold out of that sweater. Did you know that? I'm sure you looked it up. Right?
Yeah, I was searching one for my tacky sweater party in December.
You would wear that sweater. You would. All right, it's time for You Had One Job, presented by Geico. Last week was a little rough, David. This week, I think we're coming back.
We came back with a fury.
All right, this isn't the Washington State-Stanford game. We know Stanford has struggled a little bit this year, but really,
What do you think she's reading? What do you think she's reading there?
Wall Street Journal, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, that's me every morning.
I mean, I get it.
She's got a book behind her. It ain't getting better behind her.
This is K-State against Texas Tech. Yeah, you score the touchdown. This is awesome. All right, your own teammate.
Oh. You can't go down for that though. You got to just fight it. You got to stay up, Sam. You got to go. That hurt, but I'm not going down. It's like Mike Tyson punch out, man.
Oh, man.
The solar plex.
Your own guy. All right, this is Notre Dame at NC State.
Oh, boy.
Torrential downpour, by the way.
Yeah, but the ball didn't even get in the air.
Yeah, he tries to snap it, but how? How are you supposed to do it? I mean, the ball, it just dribbled like a centimeter, basically. Honestly, though, I'm not even putting that on the center.
Really?
Sam, I'm putting that on the weather.
Okay.
Good one job, weather, to not do that.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is fantastic. Jim Harbaugh at Antioch High School in California visiting a 5-star recruit. He announces the homecoming queen at your high school. Can you imagine?
That would be awesome, but
I wonder how many of those kids knew who it was. Like some random guy.
Oh, they knew who that
showed
was.
up. How about this? Last night, Nick Fitzgerald passed incomplete into the end zone. BYU wins. Okay, that's fantastic for BYU.
Yep.
But they rushed the field. They beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State has won how many games? Two?
2 and 4 now.
2 games.
Think?
I mean,
Yeah,
I get it. Celebrate when something good happens
You know what?
in life.
They've had so many close calls that they've lost this season. They're really excited to
BYU
celebrate.
is still BYU. I mean, it hasn't been the greatest year, but yeah, like that.
Okay.
Reese, I mean, what do you think about that? Really rushing the field when you beat Mississippi State, who's won 2 games?
I think you make an excellent point. I totally agree with you, except for this. It probably puts an exclamation point on our earlier discussion about the strongest conference. It beat an SEC team to run out on the field.
Says a lot about the SEC, but Ty Detmer, the new offense coordinator, has to be going, boy, times have changed.
You got a Heisman? Yeah.
National title, Heisman.
Didn't quite
2 and 4. Put it on the field.
There will simmering hatred with some begrudging respect, and why this year's edition of the 3rd Saturday in October has plenty to live up to. And there we go with the Home Depot Tailgate Titan, and they know tailgating for sure around these parts in Madison. That is Ashley London, this week's Tailgate Titan winner. She's from Reedsburg, Wisconsin, making her way here to Madison.
Camp Randall on the move. Camp Randall the swing.
Ohio State looks to be on an incredible mission.
Barrett touchdown. Wisconsin, with this defense, anything's possible.
We're in October, and this is where things start to get real.
Ohio State, Wisconsin, tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC, and streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
There is only one Saturday when you can see Peyton Manning conducting an orange orchestra. Only one Saturday when cheap cigars and smoke-filled rooms are okay. One Saturday when goalposts die a hero's death. It is a Saturday shared by bears and snakes, generals and majors, and by the Philip of your choice, one named Fulmer, the other Doyle. This is a Saturday not of football hatred, but of grudging respect. Of Condridge and Cody, of post-game handshakes that mean something and always will. Each fall there is one Saturday like no other. Tennessee, Alabama, the 3rd Saturday in October.
Tennessee's lost 9 in a row to the Tide, and they come to the end to as tough a 4-game gauntlet as anybody's faced this year. Before the game, the Vols will recite General Neyland's 7 maxims, but perhaps more defining in this game is another Neyland principle. The legendary Tennessee coach once said, "You never know what a football player is made of until he plays Alabama." We know this, the Vols have made plenty of stern comeback stuff. You realize that they have run more plays while trailing this season than Alabama has run while trailing since the start of last season. But it still comes back to what will they do against Alabama. This is a rivalry in which Bear Bryant played with a broken leg, and Bully Vandergraaf tried to pull off his cut ear rather than come out of the game. Streak or no streak, this one carries great meaning to both sides.
It's a big rivalry game. You know, the fans don't like each other, the players don't like each other.
We just need to start fast, hit him in the mouth early, and just keep on going at him every play.
Every game they've been in, they've trailed, then come back in the second half to win.
The pass is going to be caught. Tennessee win!
Once they get things rolling, they really roll. And when that's happened this year, they have been just about unstoppable.
We have a bunch of great athletes. That's going to be hard for us to maintain, but we're up for the challenge this week as a defense.
We really try to emphasize attacking the ball.
Minka Fitzpatrick, another defensive touchdown.
I think we just love the end zone.
We have 13 takeaways going into this game. They have 13 takeaways. When we clash in third Saturday in October is what it's all about.
While that Tide defense perhaps has given up the occasional big pass play, boy, they cashed in on turnovers. 9 touchdowns on defense and special teams, 7 of them coming from the defense alone. They have as many touchdowns as the Stanford offense all season and more than South Carolina and Buffalo scored at all. 9 touchdowns with the offense not even being on the field. And by the way, that Alabama defense expecting to get Reuben Foster back. He had a mild concussion in the Arkansas game. This defense, they make plays, Coach.
Alabama's defense is special. As we said there, they lead the nation in non-offensive touchdowns, 9. They're second in the nation in forcing 3 and outs, and they stop the run. The opponents only make 2 yards per carry. Listen to this. Alabama has played 41 games as #1 in the nation. They've won 36 of those games. That is amazing.
They avoid complacency.
Oh,
they just keep going and keep going. Thing that's interesting today, though, is Tennessee's offense, to me, has the recipe for how to attack this kind of defense because it gives you a chance how they spread you out. They've got tremendous skill on the perimeter, and they have a quarterback that can run and throw, and he's experienced in Josh Dobbs. I think he's the key today. This is last week against A&M. There's how they spread the Alabama defense out, creating the space and the opportunities for their athletes, whether it's a running back, the quarterback, zone read. He keeps it, and look at all the room to run horizontally, and then you can see Dobbs get upfield to be able to show you what he can do with the speed. Here he recognizes the matchup. Empty backfield. Kamara, who had the big day last week, lined up against a linebacker. That's pitch and catch for Josh Dobbs. Uses his eyes to move him, gets him exactly where he wants him to be, and Kamara is a dangerous threat running and throwing. Even with Hurd back, I think you'll still see him involved. And then we go back to the play. This is 3rd and 7. Bama loves to blitz. They'll love to bring that middle linebacker. You better be careful because look for the screen today to Alvin Kamara, and there's the space again. Nobody picks up the running back on the blitz. Tennessee, an easy read and an easy ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. And again, I think that's what Josh Dobbs can provide for this Tennessee offense. It's in Knoxville, this offense and the design of it, and the quarterback, the fact he's been there and done that. He competed with them very well last year in Tuscaloosa. Tennessee is going to score. Don't forget, for all those great defensive numbers, teams have thrown the football on Alabama's defense. Twice they've given up over 400 yards passing. So don't be shocked to watch this game and see this Tennessee offense move the ball.
Yeah, speaking of offense, I think the story so far for Alabama, as great as their defense is, Coach, is their offense with the quarterback, young Jalen Hurts. I mean, this kid is a true freshman, and his development, his progression so far has been very, very impressive. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Here on 3rd and 10. Now, he's sitting in the pocket. He's showing great poise. He has to wait until the outside receiver comes into that second hole, and he delivers a strike. between two defenders, too. A great throw by the young quarterback and great patience on his part. Now, the next play, you hear coaches talk about go through your progression. Make sure you go through your reads. Look at young Jalen Hurts. He's looking to his right. His first receiver, he doesn't like what he sees, so he comes to his left. The second receiver is covered. Now he goes to his third option. He throws a pretty good ball. A better ball is a touchdown. Maybe he can keep his balance, but still, it shows you the development from young Hurts as a passer. He's a guy that he's an excellent runner. And I think that Lane Kiffin has done a great job of trying to make this young man not go to his default. His default is anytime he senses pressure around him, he's going to tuck it and run. Now he's sitting in the pocket. He's going through his progression. He's throwing strikes.
I think it's amazing to watch how Lane Kiffin continues to adjust and evolve his offenses from Blake Sims to Jake Coker to now a true freshman in Jalen Hurts, takes advantage of their skill set. Yep. They're a completely different offense from who they were a year ago, and they just keep getting better. That kid's for real.
I'm going to go over this one stat once for memory. Under Nick Saban, Alabama has been 41 times as number one. They've won 36 of those times.
I can't believe they lost 5.
They should get rid of him.
Hey, you sound like one of those fans.
Yeah.
How'd they lose 5?
Exactly. Get him out of there.
A couple of personnel notes in this game. Darren Kirkland's expected to be back linebacker. Don't know how well he'll go. He's got the ankle problem for Tennessee. And Kamara, don't forget, started his career at Alabama. A special game for him, too, and he'll like and one more opportunity against the Crimson Tide to see if he can stop this streak. Game's coming up this afternoon, noon Eastern time. Vanderbilt and Georgia's Coca-Cola counts us down to kickoff, just over an hour away from Kirby Smart getting things started at home against the Commodores. Commodores have some individual players ranked highly in statistics, haven't been able to put it together just yet. Dabo's got it all put together. 19 straight. They've won at Death Valley. Longest streak in the country. Just over an hour away until number 3 Clemson takes on North Carolina State. That one's coming up. And our good friends at Wheels Up, Kenny Dichter and the guys, make sure that we get our celebrity guest picker. Let me give you a little hint. He's got some Big Ten roots. And if you don't like what he has to say, he might very well put you in a figure 4. Just saying.
Just saying. It'll be fun. This will be fun.
Oh, yeah. It'll be a good one. Has not been fun for Mark Helfrich in Oregon. The problems with the Ducks. In conversation with Tom Rinaldi.
I very much agree with it was a Bill Parcells that you are what your record says you are, and that's right now that's not very good.
Wisconsin campus is alive in anticipation of slaying the mighty Buckeyes. Ohio State comes in as a double-digit favorite. Those W's are flying. Look, there's my spam guy showing up. That spam's what's being served. Notre Dame Stanford not here. That's the H from OHIO. If that's the H, that's the only letter we need to see there. Both sides well represented in this great crowd for this Big Ten showdown that's coming up at 8 o'clock Eastern time on ABC. Fowler, Herbstreit, Ponder will be there for Saturday Night Football. Top 10 matchup in the Big Ten, potentially the first of 2 meetings between these two. And Ohio State, of course, won the national championship a couple of years ago by beating Oregon. But who is that team in Eugene these days, and what have they done with Oregon? Less than 2 years ago, and now instead Oregon is riding a 4-game losing streak, the latest humiliation coming at the hands of Washington. And the greatest punishment that the Ducks inflicted on Washington indirectly was when Husky quarterback Jake Browning had to do 500 push-ups for taunting a Duck on his way to the end zone. They spent a lot of time going to the end zone. They dropped 70 on them, 70-21 the final, and that the latest evidence that this Duck dynasty is certainly on hiatus, if not outright canceled.
This could not have gotten off to a worse start for Oregon, having its worst season since 04.
We're 6 games into the season and not where anyone wants to be. Everyone's disappointed. I'm disappointed. The coaches are disappointed. The student athletes are disappointed. And there's a lot of frustration.
You know, there are guys at this point in the season that aren't doing necessarily everything that we want them to do. In this situation, it's just that much more frustrating.
Some guys on our team that are busting their tails and winning. And it seems like we got other guys on our team that don't even care if we win or lose. How big a part of the team is they 30%, 40% of the team. I don't think everyone's bought in.
Obviously, those guys are competitive guys that are very frustrated. Those are things that we need to address in-house.
Right now, in the moment, we're 6 games in. There still is an opportunity to turn this a little bit and start to see some positive results. So we've got to continue to support the coaches, support the student athletes, and see what we can make of this season.
Oregon hasn't seen difficulties like this in quite some time. The 4-game losing streak, and a couple of those games in blowout fashion. Of course, they had all the 2-point conversion issue. They might have knocked off Nebraska. New defensive coordinator, Brady Hoke. They've given up 35 offensive touchdowns to the opposing teams. They've just been like a sieve, letting teams run wild down the field. So 126 in defensive efficiency. That's out of 128. Not very good. Oregon not necessarily known for defense, but in the past, under Nick Aliotti, they certainly have had some better defenses than what we've seen so far. Tom Rinaldi joins us now. And Tom, you were in Eugene. You spent some time, had a conversation with Mark Helfrich. Are things as out of sorts as it seems?
Certainly tough times, Reese. You can't deny that. But for context, in the last 7 seasons, consider, without a natural recruiting base, without a vast tradition of winning, without a huge stadium, Oregon played for the national championship in the last game of its season twice. That kind of success creates expectation year in, year out, without exception. Those expectations so far this season obviously have not been met by anybody's accounting, including the head coach.
That's the game. Nebraska with it's intercepted. I am in shock. Washington State, they got Oregon on their heels. Washington 70 and Oregon 21. Talk about the wind being taken out of your sails.
The motto of this program is win the day. How many days do you feel like you've been winning lately?
Wow, the majority. I would say the majority, and the biggest thing again to get over the top is those little tiny moments, those little tiny details. There's 1,000 of them, and if you get, 997 of them correct, it's the 3 that you don't get right that decide the game.
For people who might not see that nuance and hear you say we're winning the majority of the days, and only judge it through the record.
Well, it's reality. I mean, that's sports. It's perfect or you're an idiot.
After the loss to Washington, one of your veteran linemen, Cam Hunt, was quoted as saying 30 to 40% of players on the team don't even care if we win or lose.
Yeah, I mean, that's emotion. Number 1, it's not true. And then number 2, if it is true, that's not the time and the place to discuss it. Within our program is where we take care of that kind of stuff.
What's your level of frustration?
My level of frustration is varied. Dealing with the outside noise and dealing with all that stuff, I'll take that all day long and be the force field or the shield or whatever for our guys, as long as they take accountability inside our doors and inside our gates. Extremely frustrated about the lack of progress in some areas, absolutely. We have to be in solution mode. We have to be a positive, force in this deal because there's plenty of negativity.
If we go back to the 4 teams in the first college football playoff, Alabama, Ohio State, Florida State, and Oregon, how would you compare where you are now to where they are?
Well, Alabama and Ohio State obviously have had fantastic seasons. I know Florida State early had a couple losses. You have to fight the negative momentum. I think it's comical that Mark D'Antonio is all of a sudden a bad football coach, or Charlie Strong can't coach defense, or Brian Kelly can't coach offense. It's just such a narrow view, and there's a lot of ball left to play.
What do you think the narrow view is of Mark Helfrich right now?
Oh, the narrow view is we've lost 4 in a row, and that's not good enough by anybody's measure.
What is the identity of the program right now?
In progress. We've got so much newness, which that's where you get on that borderline of excuse and reality. We've got 8 guys on defense that have never started before, 6 guys on offense that have never started before, and then a bunch of those guys out for the year, and that's reality.
How do you think you should be judged?
The players 50 years from now, what our players are doing 50 years from now.
In that judgment, Mark, what role should win and loss play?
Oh, I very much agree with what was it, Bill Parcells, that you are what your record says you are, and that's right now that's not very good. We're not the worst team in the history of the world. We aren't the dumbest coaches in the history of the world. We're not where we want to be, where anybody wants us to be. We know how to solve it, and we will.
There was a time when warp speed, spread offense, and endless uniform combinations and those sorts of things gave Oregon an edge. It seems like so many programs, Reese, now have caught up to a degree in that edge. A season ago, for context, Oregon 3-3. Under Helfrich, they won their next 6 in a row before losing the bowl game in a spectacular collapse to TCU. After that sit-down, Reese, Helfrich told me, if you show up when everything's great, you have to show up now. We'll see how Oregon shows up here through the balance of the season.
And Tom Helfrich, a stand-up guy, for sitting down for that interview with you. But, you look at this, and there's such a call to make a change. Oregon is not the kind of place where you can just roll through coaches and think the next guy's going to do better. It's not built that way. You have to understand the culture and finding that culture. Tom said something important. A lot of people have snazzy uniforms and great facilities now. What I think Oregon's missing, something they've had a little trouble finding since the longtime defensive coordinator Nick Aliotti left, they had an edge, they had an attitude on defense. You don't see that now. They've got to establish some kind of identity.
I think the facts are the facts, and I think that's what Mark just talked about with Tom Rinaldi. The facts are Oregon, for maybe a 5 or 6 year span when Chip Kelly was there with Nick Aliotti, that combination and evaluating high school football talent, not 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star. They found guys that fit with what they were doing on both sides of the ball. And they were the team with the new uniforms that played faster than everybody else, that had freaky athletes on both sides of the ball. And when you look at those teams and those players, and you look at the team now, we could talk about injuries and we could talk about playing a lot of young players, but even when they're healthy, I don't see the same caliber of athlete that we saw there for, like I said, 5 or 6 years.
Let me tell you, Kirk, there's an old saying in coaches. You can lose games, but you can't lose your players.
Right.
Once you lose your players, you finish as a coach.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure Mark's lost his players or not, but he's got the rest of the season, 6 games, to salvage it. If not, it's over for him. I'm afraid to tell you, it's now or never for Mark.
Yeah, well, Coach, when you look at the Ducks offense, they need a dynamic quarterback to make that offense go. It's just how it is. There's a lot of teams, they don't necessarily have to have a dynamic quarterback, but the Oregon Ducks, they need one. They haven't been able to find one. And then the defense, they don't play with an edge. They don't play with any heart. I mean, it just seems like they're out there going through the motions. And I think when you look at what Mark Helfrich brings to the team, he doesn't bring that energy that you would expect. He doesn't bring anything to me that speaks of urgency. It's just like they're just out there going through the motions.
I get it. He's mild-mannered. I mean, he very much is. And you might not like his interviews, especially doesn't have as much swagger as Chip Kelly. I keep going back to the fact that 2 years ago they were playing for a national title. Last year they could have won 11 games. Their quarterback got hurt. In fairness, I think they would have won 11 games if he doesn't. So it is a bad year, and they're shifting from a 4-3 to a 3-4, or from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and they're struggling with Brady Hoke for sure. But does that mean Mark Helfrich deserves to be fired? And that's what it sounds like you hear now all over the place. And this is a team, again, that played for a championship 2 years ago and that could have won 11 games last year.
But I think that if you're a decision maker and you're evaluating the program, how much of Marcus Mariota's playmaking ability masked some potential deficiencies down the road? I'm a huge fan of Mark Helfrich. I think he's a great coach, but the guy he's replacing, they had.
But you're not going to find that guy ever again.
But I'm just magic. They had a saying in the student section about him. There was seriously.
I know.
There was something about the whole program.
Right.
That kind of didn't really give a whatever about anybody, and a chip on their shoulder is kind of how they recruited and how they played. I'm just saying, from afar, you don't feel that. You don't sense that same kind of.
I just don't. But that's Chip Kelly, and he's one of the best there is. So unless you get him again,
well, you got to find.
Who's that guy?
I mean, find a young guy. You could go find a guy like Houston's coach.
I think
Helfrich can be mild-mannered, but you got to have a guy on your staff
that gets after him.
Exactly.
They've had continuity there, and it's a unique place. I don't think you can shuffle coaches there. You got to find a guy that understands Oregon. Helfrich does. They've got to reestablish that identity a little bit. And don't forget all this Marcus Mariota talk. Oregon doesn't get Marcus Mariota without Mark Helfrich, who found him and who talked Chip Kelly into putting the offense on him.
Sure.
Just that's a mark in his favor. Oregon State, by the way, maybe this Civil War is not going to be so great at the end of the year. What about the weather in Utah for the Utah game today in Corvallis? 100% chance of rain. 50-mile-an-hour winds for former Wisconsin coach Gary Anderson, who now leads the Beavers.
Put that one right down that tee.
I'm guessing that they're not going to offer Gary any rain gear or any quarter. Oh, Crimson making its 185th consecutive game day side appearance.
They're heating up, man. They're heating up.
And you know what else? You start looking on the horizon?
Yeah.
Maybe a little trip out there someday?
We need love to go there.
You were talking about that.
Years. Here's the Reese's Go for two. The Pac-12 games, Utah and Oregon State, one of them. You see some of the others. Arizona State, Colorado's an intriguing one. Bear, you got a little something for us here?
Really hot.
But do you have Bear?
Bear, start that again, Bear.
No, I was going to say the USC-Arizona game is interesting because USC could be really hot, win 5 straight, maybe going to Washington on a roll. That could be interesting as well. You mentioned the weather out there. Colorado is another team that can bounce back. Arizona State's quarterback situation is really big. That whole conference is pretty compact, especially in that South.
Got to tell the boys in the truck, keep that mic up, Bear.
Keep ready. Bear's ready. Bear's ready. It was not Bear's fault.
Wouldn't it be amazing to see Washington against Washington State for all the marbles?
Yeah.
That's a Friday night game.
Yeah, that would be a great one.
That could be something.
Can we do a game day on a Friday night?
I hope so.
Will you clear that?
Well, to get to the Saturday site, then we just have to fire up Air Herb Street.
Yeah.
Wheels up.
I'm in.
From point A to point B with pink tie over there. We're ready to go.
This is a Rinaldi. This is a page out of Rinaldi.
Got his tie, went into Rinaldi's suitcase. What he's got. Wheels up. Great crowd here in Madison. Great fall day. J.T. Barrett hoping to spoil the mood for Wisconsin fans, but he didn't let a major mistake spoil his leadership ability.
Then the next day, I'm waking up and it's not a dream. Like, this is all real, all across the country. You turn on TV and you see me rolling at the bottom of the ticker on ESPN.
Let's lock in on some of these game day signs brought to you by Pizza Hut. We walked out of this morning and Coach said to me, I think this is a record. Most signs you've seen. Fake Yeezys, that's not a good word. No, it's not. I guess nutritional science is tough. Who doesn't like cheese curds besides Pollock?
I don't know if I've ever had a curd.
You should do yourself a favor.
I know, I got to try a curd.
But moderation.
Yeah.
Moderation. Significant moderation.
Kenny Bone is everywhere.
There we go. He made an appearance on College Game Day. I'm not sure you guys recognized him. He came out.
Oh,
there he is. There he is. It was a little more than 10 minutes into Game Day, and old Kenny Bone gave us that look. Well, but that's better than putting A1 all over a steak. Who puts A1 on a steak?
Does that?
I'm sorry.
Who gets a steak well done?
I'm guilty of both of those. I'm awful.
No, that just doesn't work in Wisconsin.
I grew up on Ponderosa steak. I got to burn it.
They go hand in hand. When you burn it, you have to use that chip.
A lot of great signs. Also, we have a Wisconsin star basketball player, Nigel Hayes, who was out here. He's a wordsmith. He might have come up with a great sign. Perhaps he'll win the contest. Samantha will be alone with the greatest sign of the day coming up in just a little while. Oh,
of these guys are hoping that they can do something with J.T. Barrett. Barrett, responsible for 45 touchdowns as a freshman, broke Drew Brees' Big Ten record, suffered a season-ending injury against Michigan last year, ended up losing the starting job to Cardale Jones, got suspended for operating under the influence citation, but he's come back this year responsible for 19 touchdowns. Ohio State ranked number 2 in the country, and he has also reached an ethereal realm. As you see the Lincoln statue, which is a centerpiece here, I don't know that anybody is comparing J.T. Barrett to Abraham Lincoln as a leader, but I'll say this, Urban Meyer mentions him as in the ethereal realm of leadership, Gene Wojciechowski, with Tim Tebow, but I guess every leader occasionally has a feet of clay moment.
Well, Reese, nobody has earned more respect in that Ohio State team than J.T. Barrett. Then again, he has a long history of earning respect. In high school, he overcame a broken collarbone, a torn ACL. At Ohio State, he loses his starting job and then also breaks his ankle. But nothing compares to what happened to Barrett in the wee hours of October 31st, 2015.
Got a turn signal on right there. That's him. That's him.
See your driver's license there? Go step on out here for me, if you would. How much you had to drink tonight? Haven't? So what I smell is not alcohol coming off your breath?
It was one of those things that I'm sitting there like, Jay, you really messed up this time, huh?
Well, Joe, listen, I am going to place you under arrest for operating a vehicle while under the influence, okay?
J.T. Barrett, the starting quarterback for Ohio State, was arrested for DUI.
I could have hurt somebody, I could have hurt myself. When you really think about it, I could not be here.
One moment, one decision, one mistake. J.T. Barrett's life was built on the idea that every decision would be the right one. He was born and raised in blue-collar Wichita Falls, Texas, by Joe and Stacy Barrett, blue-collar parents with a long, proud military background and a proud family code.
The only thing that you have to show people who you are and what you're about is your character. Tell us the truth, and we'll deal with it as a family.
By 5th grade, JT was developing his own work ethic and discipline.
He had a plan when we were back in elementary school of what he wanted to accomplish. He said he wanted to go to college, win a Heisman, and then a national championship. So he had it all set out for himself.
Barrett throws into the end zone. Touchdown. Broke a tackle. Got a first down. Are you kidding me? J.T. Barrett really has been the most dynamic playmaker of this offense.
Barrett went 11-1 as a starter in 2014 before breaking his ankle against Michigan. In 2015, he reclaimed his starting position on October 24th. But then just a week later, the team captain known for his character did something out of character when he tried avoiding a DUI checkpoint.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's playing quarterback at Ohio State.
I answered phone, and he just broke down, and he told me, he's like, I messed up, Mom. I was like, what did you do, son? He's like, I got arrested for drunk driving.
Of the 350 guys I've coached in the last 3 years, thousands I've coached, I'd put him in the 1 or 1B or 1C. That, no way would he do that.
Talking to my mom, she was like, you're safe, you didn't hurt anybody, but also it's time for you to grow.
He had to face the reality that this was bad. I'm worried about our team. You know, he's the guy, he's the leader. How do we handle this?
Barrett pleaded guilty to the misdemeanor charge of operating a vehicle while impaired. Meyer suspended him for a game.
I came to him and was like, I want to say something to my guys. It's an opportunity for me to, I think, let people learn from my experience.
He used as an example to help our team. He's always worried about the Barrett name and his mom and his dad, and that's what makes him so special.
This is what we work for. This is why you come to Ohio State right here. This is why you do it. It's your moment. Be calm in your moment. Let's go ahead and make it happen. Let's
go! Almost a year later, the worst moment of Barrett's life has become his defining moment. From humiliation to Heisman candidate. From low point to leader.
This is not going to be another 2016 team. We do what we do. Every single snap, that's what we do. Every single snap, so let's go.
I've done a better job as I got older, understanding how much goes into being a leader. It was a storm that was brought into my life that I'm grateful for. Who knows if that didn't happen, where I'll be.
We've gotten to know Urban Meyer over the years, and we've learned this about him. He does not gush about his players very often, but he is crazy about J.T. Barrett. He says he's going to be a great head coach one of these days and might be the head coach at Ohio State. And Reese, just to prove the point, at practice sometimes he actually takes off the whistle around his neck and tries to hand it to J.T.
He would fill that role quite nicely, Gene, I'm sure. He's also going to fill another role. If he is responsible for 3 touchdowns tonight, he will become #1 in Ohio State's storied history in touchdowns responsible for. He starts the evening 2 behind Braxton Miller on the all-time list. You know, in the last decade, Wisconsin has had 2 Outland Trophy winners and 2 Doak Walker Award winners. That's why it's very un-Badger-like to see the Wisconsin running game slow to a crawl, averaging well under 4 yards per carry. That's 106th in the nation. Buckeyes, only team in the country not to allow a rushing touchdown this year. Wisconsin's defense has only allowed 5 touchdowns of any kind this year, and their task, slow down the Ohio State offense enough to turn this baby into a tractor pull instead of an IndyCar race.
It's 2 similar teams. This is a classic Big Ten matchup that I think is going to be one in the trenches.
Defense is going to be a pivotal matchup in this game just because whoever owns the line of scrimmage and stops the run early is going to win the game.
Our defense, these guys fly around. They play relentless.
There's been a lot of young players that I call them the no-names. Buckeye Nation had no idea who they were, and they're really developing quickly.
We know what we're capable of. There's certain things that film can't measure, and I feel like on Saturday, teams find out what we're all about.
I don't think that we're trying to measure up to what the other defense is doing. We're trying to play a game, trying to play it together, and we're trying to find a way to score 1 more point than the opponent.
Coach Corso hit this right off the top of the show. If you like old school Big Ten defense, this is the game for you. You see the teams that have allowed the fewest points per drive this season. Ohio State leading the way. Wisconsin under a point per drive. And of the many, many things that these defenses do well, Wisconsin does a really good job at keeping teams from running outside, or they have thus far. And that's where Ohio State's been really explosive, too, in the run.
They have been, and J.T. Barrett brings that running element, the zone read, the jet sweeps. There's plenty to look at. When you look at this Wisconsin front 7, first of all, I know J.J. Watt was a big name. T.J. Watt's on here in this video because he can play. It's not because of his brother. It has nothing to do with it. He attacks the line of scrimmage, gets tackles for a loss, hyper-aggressive. This whole linebacker unit attacks the line of scrimmage as well as anybody in the country. Now, look at him rush the passer, one of the best in the conference. Does a great job using his hands, getting to the outside. When you pressure J.T. Barrett, you can make him human. How about the big guys up front that keep guys off of these linebackers? Connor Sheehy, this is a grown man. Look at this, lock his right arm out, come outside and make a play and set that edge and stop the outside running game like you're talking about, Reese. So I think this Wisconsin Badger front, they've been doubted against LSU. They've been doubted against Michigan, and they'll be doubted again tonight. They've held their own every single matchup.
I think it's what gives them a chance in this game. Playing at home, that defense, they're going to challenge Ohio State. Remember, Ohio State's coming off a game where they just couldn't quite connect on the vertical pass. So you got to think Wisconsin, they're going to have to do something where they got to start by loading up to stop the run, which means J.T. Barrett has got to get the ball out of his hands against the linebackers that David just talked about. Look for some quick game, just trying to get an opportunity to get the ball out. Can the receivers get separation when they face man-to-man is something to keep an eye on. This is a part of the game that's interesting for Ohio State, the numbers game. With a quarterback who's essentially a halfback, the numbers typically work in their advantage, where you have 6, if you include the tight end, to be able to block the 5. And now you can see the physicality right there of J.T. Barrett. He is not necessarily the quickest running this offense, but he's very, very physical there, 8 yards after contact. And this is just his ability to recognize the one-on-one opportunity. And he's going to look, after last week, I think they're really anxious to show that they can hit the vertical pass game. Their receivers are, up to this point, other than the Oklahoma game, I think they're anxious to show that they can get downfield when you leave them one-on-one. And I think, Coach, that the vertical pass game for Ohio State, seems to set up the rest of their offense. Last week, they couldn't hit those passes, and they just kind of reverted back to let's just win the surest way, run the ball. If they're going to move the ball on the road in this environment against that defense, I think the JT throwing the ball downfield will be a big key.
Ohio State is number 2 in the nation in pass defense. And one of the reasons their defensive secondary is as good as it gets in the secondary and against anybody in the nation. And they're number 8. Garyon Conley is the leader of the defensive secondary. Watch his coverage. He moves to the ball and gets it at its height.
Give me that.
Play. Number 24, Malik Hooker leads the Big Ten in interceptions. And watch this. Boom. All the way.
Instinct. Sure.
Instinct. Get it, baby. Way to go.
Good
now,
job.
It's been totally for the Buckeyes have won 19 straight games, true games under Urban Meyer. But in the last 12 years, Wisconsin has won 90% of their games in that stadium right there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Something's got to give.
Hey, something's got to give. It sure does. Because 90% of the time, they win every year.
Yeah.
Good.
I want to piggyback off your tape. I want to talk about Ohio State's defense, too. I want to talk about one guy, their linebacker, named Raekwon McMillan. Now, this guy is an outstanding player, number 5. He's the field general out there. Make sure you keep an eye on him every single play tonight. When the quarterback, Alex Hornibrook, is barking out signals, you will see McMillan doing the same thing to his defense. He's strong enough to thump a Badgers offensive lineman at the point of attack and still come off and make the tackle. He leads the Buckeyes with 33 tackles. And here he is right now. Now, when the Badgers try to run in between the tackles, watch Raekwon McMillan come screaming in the hole. His downhill aggression is like no other player on their team. He's the leader of this group, and I think what goes underrated about his skill set is his ability to get into passing lanes. If Alex Hornibrook looks at his receivers too long, he would take McMillan right to the play, and he may not make the catch and get an INT, but he'll break up the pass. So make sure you look for Raekwon McMillan, number 5. He's a playmaker on the Ohio State Buckeyes defense, too.
All right, so you got all of these defensive stats here, all these defensive playmakers. Who prevails in the game?
Well, I tell you what, I think Wisconsin's defensive front 7, they'll agree. You can always depend on them. They're always going to be there, but I can't depend on their offense. I mean, their offense has been up and down and inconsistent. This isn't the same Wisconsin run-the-ball team that you've seen in the past. Because of that, I think Ohio State wins the ball game. I think J.T. Barrett spreading the formation, running the football like Kirk's tape, making Wisconsin play the spread game, running on the edges, all that good stuff, spitting on the perimeter. I think it's too much. Ohio State wins.
Oh, man. IndyCar race, not track to pull.
Yeah, I'm making an IndyCar race if I'm playing against Wisconsin.
Yeah. The two teams that they've beaten have been in the top 10, play Wisconsin-style football. Ohio State's certainly a physical team, a little bit different down on the edges. We'll see how they handle it, see whether these guys think that Wisconsin can pull the upset at home in this game tonight. Noon Eastern time on ESPN immediately following us. Coca-Cola counting down to kickoff. There's the Wizard, the Hall of Famer Bill Snyder and Bob Stoops. Stoops says he hates this game. That's one of his mentors.
I'll tell you what, there, Coach. Tell you what.
I remember when you were coaching me. I was at Iowa and you were on the staff. And then I went to Kansas State with you. We turned that program around. Feel pretty good today.
You guys with the Bob Stoops, Bob Davey impressions, you guys are killing it.
Very few people are able to imitate Deshaun Watson when it comes to productivity. Just about a half hour away from kickoff between the Tigers on homecoming and North Carolina State. That one's coming up on ABC. And Wheels Up has brought our guest picker in. You know who it is? He is a jet flying, limousine riding.
Here we go.
Playing emerging.
Come on.
Come on, son of a gun.
Give it.
I think he'll show up with a little flair, perhaps.
Very good.
Maybe even in a feathered robe or something as we check out the sign of the week, Sam.
That was too easy, Reese. I'm with my Pizza Hut sign of the week winner. This is Peyton Ryback. He's only 11 years old. You can see Urban Meyer can't bottle flip, but Peyton, the question is, can you?
Yes.
You can't? Okay, I just so happen to have a, oh gosh, dang it.
Be an athlete, Be an athlete, Sammy.
Come on. But I know, that's going to be on
you. Had one job,
isn't it?
Sammy.
Oh, Peyton, we'll give you 3 tries. I actually saw him make it home. See, that should have counted.
The pressure of television.
It's on a hill.
Try it again there, lad.
We do need to say good luck to Peyton. Peyton
Come
has
on,
a
young
football
lad.
game in an hour. So go, Peyton. Reese, take it away.
Sam, do you guys have any idea how addictive that is if you start trying to do that at home?
Yeah. I've never seen it for hours.
Really? My kids
made
do
fun
it
of people
all
doing it,
the
and then all of a
time.
sudden I'm like,
Never seen it before.
This is fun.
Hey, look, here comes Matt Pace, chef from Bassett Street Lunch here in Madison.
Oh, Des. There's a donut in the bottom of that.
Yeah,
Is it really?
Oh, that's Des. That's Des right there.
Yeah, Des,
Yeah, there we go.
Hey,
Oh, is that D8 on it?
Street.
Okay, yeah.
Cheese curd.
Oh, there's a curd.
Get yourself one of those.
Inside this?
All right, give it Kurt.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. Now we're talking.
How can you guys eat?
Now you're talking my language.
Your teeth is going to get you.
Oh, it's okay. We'll cut this, Kirk, because I know you won't eat after me.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go, baby.
The AT&T Fan Cam. Keep up with all things college football all season long with AT&T and DirecTV.
This third Saturday in October, we are closing in on the start of your college football Saturday. We're here waiting the nightcap between Ohio State and Wisconsin coming up on ABC at 8 o'clock Eastern time. But you've got plenty of football coming your way on ABC. It's Clemson on homecoming against NC State. Our game, Kansas State and Oklahoma. Kirk Ferentz and the Hawkeyes against Purdue. Purdue coming off a victory against Illinois. And Nick Chubb leading the Bulldogs against Vanderbilt. That's on the SEC network. And that Kansas State-Oklahoma game, we'll take a look inside the Oklahoma attack. This week's AT&T Inside Access. There is Baker Mayfield. Bob Stoops praising him this week, calling him the live wire that keeps the energy going. And one thing that Mayfield has done very effectively when throwing the ball at least 20 yards down the field is find D.D. Westbrook. In the last 2 weeks, they've targeted him 18 times. He's caught 17 of them, nearly 200 yards per game, and 5 touchdowns. However, D.D. Westbrook, we've just found out, is not starting today for Oklahoma. That's the only information the game crew has at the moment. Jordan Smallwood will get the start. Whether that means Westbrook will set out a couple of plays a quarter, uncertain at this point, but he has been the main target for Baker Mayfield over the course of the season, but particularly in the last couple of weeks. 232 yards last week against Texas, and there is the Sooners getting ready for this show. They've had trouble at home against Kansas State.
They sure have over the years, and there have been some huge games there. This game not quite as big as some of those, but got to be impressed with Oklahoma after losing to Houston and Ohio State. They've kind of kept their wits about them and stayed focused. Samaje Perine today will find a very physical Kansas State defense to run into, and they load that line of scrimmage and try to make it as tough as they can on opposing running backs.
How about the 1-2 punch with Joe Mixon? Now, Joe Mixon put the ball on the ground a couple of times, about 3 times against Texas. He's going to have to really show up, but he's a great guy to put on the perimeter, too.
Yeah, nice change of pace. It's nice the way those two complement one another.
And you know, Oklahoma is concerned about the quarterback run game, and Jordan Evans is going to be a guy to have to contain that. The other issue that we've told you about, they're expecting some gusty winds in Norman today, and that perhaps Jesse Ertz has had plenty of problems with completion percentage. That won't help, you wouldn't think.
No, the winds could be an issue, but I think, you know how Bill Snyder approaches games on the road, especially against a coach who he's very familiar with, and Bob Stoops. He'll be conservative and try to play the field position and just doesn't want his quarterback to make silly mistakes and put the ball on the ground.
Seeing a couple of Kansas State receivers, Dominique Heath there and Byron Pringle. Do you know that D.D. Westbrook had more yards against Texas last week than either of those guys have all season so far? It sort of underscores problems with the passing game. That kickoff coming on ESPN in just about 21 minutes. We mentioned a road team has won the last 5 in that one. No road team has won in 19 tries against Deshaun Watson and Clemson.
Yeah, again, I think Deshaun Watson is feeling better and better with his offense. I don't think he feels the same sense of pressure as he was feeling early in the year. I think that Louisville game was big for him and really the entire offense. And Ben Boulware, number 10, will be the leader today. And he'll be challenged by Matthew Days, the North Carolina State running game.
At defensive line there with Christian Wilkins and Des are also going to get some help from Austin Bryant, they think.
Yeah, Austin Bryant is a guy who they obviously thought was going to replace Shaq Lawson. He's coming back, from his injury, so that would be a big boost for that defense, especially the front 7.
Ryan Finley will challenge him. He's got an ability. You can see he hasn't thrown an interception, made good decisions, has a lot of athletes around him. Just touched on Days. Days does a nice job of really fitting into this scheme. They get him out in space, but he can also be physical between the tackles.
And kickoff in about 20 minutes, coming up on ABC's on ESPN2. It'll be Iowa and Purdue. There's the Jim Thorpe Award winner, Desmond King. It's not popular here.
No, they don't like him too much here, but I mean, he's a pretty good cover corner. You know, I think that he doesn't have great top end speed, but he's a very heady player, smart guy, does a lot of film study. He's going to make some plays today because Purdue, they got a pretty good offense, Kurt.
Yeah, the big thing for them is just being able to be efficient, not turn the football over. I think, you know, they've been in this system now for a few years, and David Blau does a good job of being able to throw the football. They'll try to challenge Iowa today downfield.
Yeah, David Blau is a developing quarterback for Darrell Hazel. This is Minnesota and Maryland. Connor Rhoda is going to get his first career start. Mitch Leidner dealing with a concussion, so he'll go on the road and start against Maryland. And the Gophers have stumbled out of the gate a bit, trying to get it going on the road. And there is Lorenzo Harrison. He's had a good freshman start. I hope the Terps can keep it going there against this Minnesota team. And then on the SEC network, Vanderbilt and Georgia. He only had 29 yards passing, did Jacob Eason against South Carolina.
Yeah, I know. Jacob Eason, the young quarterback, is going to have to come up big against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has a good defense, but I think Jacob Eason will probably have a really good game against them today.
It's really another opportunity for Jacob Eason to continue to take that next step. This is a guy that doesn't get a lot of attention. Webb is a very, very quick back, and if they have any chance at all of moving the ball today, he's going to have a big day.
Yeah, he's second in the SEC rushing. Georgia's going to have to deal with him. So who will it be? Just a week ago, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of Coach putting on the first headgear. Brutus is the way it goes. We'll see what he does. Oh, and they're holding the championship belt. The smoke's starting to rise. They're waiting to greet our guest picker, and he is now a bus emerging guest picker. There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. He's got a little Big Ten football in his background, too. You tell him, Rick. Anybody crosses him on the way, I want you to slap him in the figure four. Submission holds coming in the picks on College Game Day.
Camp Randall on the move. Camp Randall is swing.
Ohio State looks to be on an incredible mission.
Barrett touchdown. Wisconsin, with this defense, anything's possible.
We're in October, and this is where things start to get real.
Ohio State, Wisconsin, tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC, and streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
Coach's headgear is here. It's almost time for Chevrolet Saturday selections. College Game Day is built by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
They're firing up the grills here, getting ready for a day-long tailgate preparation of Ohio State and Wisconsin. Let's see where the upsets are, where the dogs are howling. Des, who you got for a super dog?
Hey, now check this out. During the offseason, I went to Brett Favre's Hall of Fame party. I met Southern Miss AD Bill McGillis. He said his team is going to be really good this year, so I'm picking Southern Miss as a super dog against LSU today.
Everybody keep in mind, these are against the spread, right, guys?
It's against the spread, right. The spread is hot.
All right, Virginia upsets Pitt. Virginia had an off week and is well rested. It's homecoming, and Virginia beats Pitt. Yes, sir. That's it.
Last time they were in Charlottesville.
Yeah, they did.
Again, this is not an outright pick. I'm saying that Wake Forest keeps it closer than 22. They can play defense. Florida State's off an emotional game against Miami. Don't be shocked if Wake can maybe hang around.
Herbie, I need some winners. Come on, I need a winner like Indiana beating number 10 Nebraska. You know, this line has been cut in half since the start of the week, and as my good friend Lee Corso says, I think somebody knows something.
Somebody knows something I don't know.
With?
Somebody.
Somebody's. Indiana outright over Nebraska to keep them from going 6-0.
Can't believe it.
Let's take a look at our Saturday selections for today, brought to you by Chevrolet. And you know, everybody likes a little competition. The celebrity guest pickers. Aaron Rodgers And Eric Church is going to have to start his own tip line.
Eric Church combined after 2 appearances like 15-3. There's the old chain smokers down there after coming in from Vegas. They can get up to 500.
Yeah, but that Blue Eyes is the number one.
Yeah,
Blue Eyes.
Yep. Clearly what the chain smokers needed was to get closer. Or perhaps they just needed a little nature boy in their life.
I am a Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, woo, son of a gun. And I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down.
Sweet. Hey. Ladies and gentlemen,
Sweet.
Ric Flair.
That's great.
There you go, Rick.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That's
fun.
Awesome.
You travel and wrestle like
wasn't really me.
But you know what? You're a big football fan.
I am.
Played a little bit at Minnesota. Where were you on signing day for recruiting?
I was with this young man right there in Ann Arbor.
Yes, sir.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Building up the Maize
my
and Blue?
guy.
Love Coach Harbaugh.
My God.
Oh, that might not be popular here. Let's do some picks. What do you say? We'll do some picks. Let's start with the game coming up at noon. Just a few minutes away, Kansas State and Oklahoma.
This may surprise you, but I love Coach Snyder. I think the Oklahoma may have a hangover after the Texas victory. I'm going Kansas State to beat Oklahoma.
Rick? Not so fast. I'm going Oklahoma.
All right.
That's a good pick. That's a real nice pick. Oklahoma over Kansas State.
Des, I like where you're going with it. I think it's competitive. I think Kansas State always goes to Norman and hangs around. I just don't know if they have the offensive firepower to actually win the game. I think it's a close game, but I think Oklahoma wins it.
Okay.
Also in the Big 12, Texas Tech has scored 50 or more at home 9 straight times. What about the game against West Virginia?
Oh, Texas shootout. I think that Texas Tech will win a close one at the end, but I mean, both teams are probably scoring the 50s.
I'm going with Tech as well.
Oh, no. Not so fast, Nature Boy. Not so fast. The first team to 50 wins it, and it's West Virginia.
Well, I think Patrick Mahomes doesn't get probably the national exposure he deserves. He's having a huge year. But Skylar Howard's doing a good job as well. And I think the defense is better for West Virginia. That's why I'm going with the Mountaineers.
We go in the ACC, North Carolina and Miami, both of these teams coming off disappointments in different way. Miami had its heart broken. Carolina got trounced.
Yep.
It's 3:30 on ABC. Who wins it?
I tell you what, I like what I saw from the Hurricanes last Saturday night against Florida State. Yes, I'm going with Brad Collier and the Canes.
Going with North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, got to go with Carolina.
Okay.
Not so fast. 16 times the world champ this guy was.
Wow.
16 times, but he's
Incredible.
a lousy picker. I'm going to Miami.
You know, with Carolina, it's a little bit of a guessing game. They're up, then they're down, then they're up, then they're down. I think Miami and Mark Richt, they're on to something here, and I think they're getting better. I like Miami to find a way to beat Carolina at home.
And what about a couple of teams that have been really disappointing to this point? Who turns it around a little bit, Stanford or Notre Dame?
I'm going to go with Notre Dame just because I think Deshaun Kaiser is a better quarterback than what they're dealing with at Stanford. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame in a close one.
I'm going to go with Stanford. I think McCaffrey's due to have a big game.
That's a good pick. That's a real good pick. Not me. I'm going with Notre Dame. I've got to go with Notre Dame.
You're going Notre Dame?
Yep.
I'm going to go with the Nature Boy. I'm going to go with Stanford. And I just think this is a week you finally see the offense from Stanford. I think you'll see them have a few wrinkles and have a chance to be able to get others involved besides number 5.
But what is it that he could say that would make you jump up here and put him in the figure 4 right now?
Anything.
Stanford and Notre Dame coming up tonight at 7:30. Arizona State and Colorado, a couple of teams in the fight in the Pac-12 South. Which way are you leaning there?
Like what I saw, we could go from Arizona State, but I'm going to go Colorado. I like the Buffaloes in this one. I'm going Colorado.
And me and him are the same team. I'm going with Colorado, too.
So am I. Go right. Colorado.
Go Buffs. There
we go.
Buffs at home. And, again, Colorado just kind of – they win today,
Yeah.
They're just hanging around in that Pac-12 South.
Well, you think about that. Mike McIntyre won 1 of his first 21 Pac-12 games, and he's got them in the mix right now. By the way, Arizona State, as we mentioned earlier, all kinds of quarterback problems. They're hoping that Manny Wilkins is going to be able to go. UCLA and Washington State on the subject of quarterback problems. Josh Rosen, I mean, he's been treated like a crash test dummy. They're going to have a game-time decision as to whether he can go at quarterback against this pretty good Washington State defense.
Yeah, Arizona State knocked him out of the game twice a week ago. I don't know if he's going to go. If he does, he's not going to be the same Josh Rosen that we're accustomed to seeing. So I'm going to go with Wazoo, Washington State over the Bruins.
Oh, man, I'm going with the Bruins.
Bruins.
I don't know.
What do you got?
Washington State.
Washington State at home.
Get mad at me.
Get mad at you.
Washington State at home.
I remember the first 2 weeks of the season when Washington State was supposed to be this great team, and they didn't get off to a great start. Mike Leach challenged them publicly. Boy, they have been a different team in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think that continues today. I like Washington State.
I think a big thing about that, UCLA can't run it at all. Can they do that? And if Mike Faithful, the walk-on, has to play quarterback, that game comes up at 10:30 Eastern time tonight. It could be a long, long night on the Palouse for UCLA if they can't get a little bit of a running game going. I told you in Superdogs he's going to win this next one. Let's see how many of you agree with me. Nebraska and Indiana. Nebraska's undefeated. 3:30 Eastern on ESPN2 and ABC.
You picked the Hoosiers, right?
Outright.
I'm with you. Hoosiers outright. I got Indiana.
That'll be pretty.
Nebraska outright.
Oh. and the cover, Rick. And the cover.
Hey, Indiana plays well in homecoming. They beat Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, ranked teams at homecoming. Indiana.
All this Indiana, except for Rick.
Yeah.
I'm going. I can't believe that you guys keep doubting this Nebraska team. I think Tommy Armstrong is the real deal. I think he's going to run and throw, and I think that defense comes up with just enough stops there in Bloomington. Go Nebraska. They're top 10 team.
Go Big Red.
That's right. Go Big Red.
Huskers. Oh, reverse psychology working there.
No.
You know what? Indiana has been really good against the spread, against powerful teams at home, including beating Michigan State last time they were an underdog. How about Arkansas and Ole Miss? Hogs broke the Rebels' heart last year.
I think I'm going to go with Chad Kelly and Ole Miss. I think he'll make a lot of more throws, big-time throws, more than Austin. And I think that Ole Miss defense is going to go after a quarterback for Arkansas, too.
Again.
My God. There you go.
Ole Miss.
That's a lot of Michigan love.
Kelly.
I was going to say, I'm almost getting nauseous here. This Ann Arbor stuff.
Hey, feel free to put any of those guys in the headlock.
See us on signing day.
I don't know. I'm going to go, I think it's a shootout. I think it's similar to last year's game. I think Austin Allen's going to make plays, but I don't see Arkansas being able to stop Chad Kelly. I think they run and they throw. Give me Ole Miss.
Clean sweep for the Rebels there on ESPN, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Alabama, Tennessee.
Bama, roll tide. Not even close. Not even close.
Balls out of gas.
Yeah.
It hurts me to say it, but roll tide. Yeah, I like him too.
Roll Tide. If he says it, I'm going for it. Roll Tide.
Don't underestimate Lane Kiffin being back in Knoxville, and if they get a chance to put it on, they will. But also don't underestimate Josh Dobbs is going to make plays on that great Alabama defense. This is a shootout. I think Alabama outscores Tennessee in another one of those crazy volunteer games.
You know, some of those metrics, too, they say a 50-50 proposition, most shootouts, and that's Tennessee's best chance in many people's estimation. And what about this game that we'll see in Camp Randall Stadium tonight? Over the last 12 years, these are the two winningest programs in the Big Ten. But this is the first time the Badgers have been a home underdog since 2010 when they took down number 1 Ohio State. Another Buckeye juggernaut arrives. They're heavily favored. This top 10 win, nobody would discount. If Wisconsin is somehow able to pull it off. And Ohio State hardly dealing with this as if they're playing with house money.
This is big. This is a physical game we're going to play Saturday on the road at night.
Two heavyweight teams, looking at probably the best team in the nation, sitting at number 2, and then a team that's up and coming and just willing to fight.
The battle of the Big Ten. These are two Big Ten powerhouses, two elite teams, and the best team's going to come out on top.
There's a tradition behind us playing. I feel like we always have a chip on our shoulder.
Going out there in front of all those people, a night game at that. This game will go down in history. You just will have to pick your poison.
That last guy talking there, Rob Wheelwright, from Columbus, Ohio, might mean something to him. You're calling the game. Give us a key.
There's two keys real quick. I think J.T. Barrett's ability to throw the vertical pass to set up the rest of their offense is a key. And then the other thing is Alex Hornibrook. This is a game where he is going to have to be able to make some plays. Wisconsin doesn't have the line to just physically run the football. So they're going to have to be able to throw the football, which will be a big key today.
All right, that's the key. Who wins it?
Wow. I look at Wisconsin's defense. I think they will be able to stop the run for at least 3 quarters, but I don't think they can do it for 4 quarters against the Buckeyes. I think J.T. Barrett will be the difference maker. I think Ohio State will win a close one in Camp Randall.
All right, before you make your pick, Rick, I want to remind you of something, sir. Take a look at this.
I can't stand Ohio State. That's it, baby.
So what's the pick?
Right there. The pick is Wisconsin. And I'm going to be on State Street outside. Me and the coach.
Oh, yeah. Hey, in 20 years, I put Brutus on my head. I've been 14 wins, 6 losses. Yeah. That's not bad if I was a gambling man. The last 2 out of 3 times I put Brutus on my head, I lost.
Oof.
Ooh. I think I'm going to go with Brutus. Give me out of here, Brutus' head.
Oh, no.
What was this? Was that an attempted woo?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
There you go.
Hey, Rick, would you take Coach Corso right now, tag team partner?
Let's do it, Coach.
Steel cage match? Hey. Nothing? There are many sights you think you'll never see these days. The Nature Boy and Brutus. Ric Flair, always a pleasure. Great job. 16-time world champion, limousine rider, made some picks. Kansas State and Oklahoma's coming up next. Mark Jones, our buddy Rod Gilmore, and Quint Kesnick on the call from a windy day in Norman. Enjoy your football Saturday.